Hello again, Michael Ware with the Iowa Firearms Coalition's Warrior Wednesday. You're expecting me to say that we have a special guest and then me laugh and giggle around and say they're all special. So let's just do that. I have a special guest today. They're all very special. We are pleased to have Joy of all trades here. She's coming to us from Iowa. Let's get it out of the way. Joy, are you Dutch?
Very.
Okay, well, we're willing to forgive that and move on. Let's zip right into it. So I ran across some of your content zipping down through social media. I'm pretty sure that I saw it first on Instagram, and then I didn't have to look very hard, and I saw it a lot of other places. So real quick, let's touch on the Second Amendment. Since I first saw you, I think shooting with Caleb and some of the guys from Brownells. Does that sound right?
Yeah, at Big Springs.
All right. What brought you to that event, and how did that start? Tell us about it.
So I've been an RSO at Big Springs, which for those that don't know, Big Springs Shooting Complex is Brownell Shooting Range, just located south of Grinnell. And I've been an RSO, I want to say since I was 21, because I think that's technically the legal age that you can start being an RSO. So I went through the NRA course, and I've been RSO in events out there for, 6-7 years now. So just kind of got my feet wet, mainly in the shotgun discipline, because I was on the shooting team in high school. And then I kind of just stayed where I was comfortable, and I was always up on the upper range in the shotgun world. And I finally kind of got brave enough. I started venturing down to the pistol bays, and I was like, you know what, this world's kind of interesting too. And I've just started dabbling more in that space. And that video that you came across on social media, we were doing a promo video for an upcoming 2-gun competition that will be held at Big Springs this summer in June 20th, I believe, called the Action Hero Experience. So basic 2-gun competition. The stages are kind of themed after your favorite action movies. Mm-hmm. So maybe you're crawling under a berm, or you're getting in and out of a car, you're shooting out of a car, then you have to kick down a door, and you're kind of doing all these fun activities while you're operating with your 9mm and your AR platform. So a very fun event that we get to host at the range. And Jude and Caleb just asked if I would help with a promo video out there, and I never say no. They're fun guys to be around, and a day at the range. So I was like, let's do it. Let's have some fun.
We're off to a rocky start. We established the Dutch origin, number one. And then you did what the typical scattergun girls do. They're like, yes, I was up here with the elite on the upper range. And I decided to go slumming, and I went down to the lower range. So believe me, I have never been to the upper range. I've always been a slummer.
No,
so I understand.
Not a trap shooter.
You can come visit us anytime you want. It's fine.
That's funny. I mean, I grew up shooting rifles and stuff just as a country kid. I grew up on a farm, but the tactical space in general was just so intimidating to me, and I just did not know anything about it. So I was like, okay, I'll help up here where I'm comfortable. I trap and ski and sporting clays. I'm like, this is my thing. This is where I'll hang out. And then I slowly got pulled down in the different world, and I was like, oh, this is interesting.
Different world.
It's funny though, because it is. It's there's the shotgun people, and the trap and skeet shooters, and then there's the tactical 2-gun competition people. And I just feel like they don't always cross over. Sometimes they do, but oftentimes they kind of just they're both in a separate category. Same range, same place, totally different vibes,
Yeah, they are.
But yeah, I've just kind of had fun learning as I go, and just meeting awesome people along the way, people that are really great marksmen, whether they're into the long range stuff or they're more into 2-gun pistol shooters. I've just learned so much by just meeting people and asking questions. And I'm still such a novice. I'm still such a novice in the space. Every time I think I'm like, oh yeah, I understand this, then I learn something new, and I'm like, oh, there's a whole nother wormhole to that thing I didn't even know about. But it's been a lot of fun, and I've met some really amazing people along the way, which I'm really grateful for.
They are. And you're right about there being a separation between passions or discipline. I think that's safe to say across the board. As a Midwestern girl, I know that there are Ford and Chevy and Dodge lovers out there, whatever else, and they advocate for what they drive, not because they've driven them all and they've used them extensively. It's the only thing that they own, so it's the best,
right.
And it's the same thing in firearms shooting circles, or even ownership. I think that you'd be surprised, Joy, how many people delve into collecting, and they will only collect one sect of gun because it's what they like, it's what they're most familiar with. Maybe they're really good at identifying really valuable stuff versus less valuable, and then they advocate for it. I only collect Lugers. I'm like, well, I like Lugers too. What about this? No way. If it's not a Luger, I don't want anything to do with it. Okay, that's fine. Well, and I think that that's prevalent. What I would like to see, I don't care what collectors collect, they can do whatever they want, but I would encourage those people like you're talking about, put down your scatter gun long enough to go try this. And oh, by the way, when you go slumming at the low range, you got to tell some of those guys, hey, come up to where the air's a little higher, where it's a little nicer up here. You can see farther up in this upper range, and break some clay. So I think that we could do with a little bit of crossover. I really do.
Yeah, I think it's fun and it's good exposure and you learn something new. And yeah, they both kind of have their vibes, but they're both a lot of fun, in my opinion.
Something I wanted to touch on real quick, and I'm blurting this out there on a recording without having researched it. This is just kind of the way these conversations go. But since Iowa changed the law last year, and IFC was an integral part of that, by the way, we helped bring that over the finish line. 18, 19s, and 20-year-olds now, as of July 1st, 2025, have the same ability to use a pistol as anybody 21 and up did. So Brownells may be able to readdress that SOP, and people 18 and up may be able to help with that now instead of being cut off at 21. I don't know if that's worth mentioning, and maybe I should holler at Pete real quick. I don't know if they have considered that, but I would be willing to bet that those folks that are 18, 19, and 20 that were locked out before may not be now.
Oh, interesting. I did not know that. That is interesting.
Yeah, it's a little funny how it works, Joy, because from the basis of an 18-year-old being able to carry a pistol, they can now. And they could do that since we have constitutional carry in Iowa now. Thank you again, IFC. That's something that they can do. But here's where it's sticky. There's still a federal overreaching law and ATF regulations that say that it's 21 and up. So you, as an 18-year-old, couldn't walk in my shop and say, I like that Glock 19. I want to buy that. You're not able to do that. But your dad or mom or somebody could gift you one. You could inherit one. You know what I'm saying? And that's completely legal. So there's a bit of a hurdle. It's a bit of a hurdle as to how that 18, 19, or 20-year-old gets their pistol. But if they have it through legal means, they're quite willing to carry it and use it, or quite able to carry and use it. So keep that in mind. There's a lot of folks out there that don't know that law changed.
That is interesting. Thanks for sharing that.
Oh, certainly. Okay, so Dutch girl, tulips, farmer. What were you passionate about as a pup? Because you're still a pup. But I mean a little pup.
Thank you for acknowledging that, because I am. I feel like one every day. I'm like, I don't know how to do this. I'm an adult, but I don't know how to do this. What was I passionate about when I was a kid?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I don't know. I think like what all kids are. I don't know if I was intently passionate on really anything that I'm passionate about today per se. I think I was just exposed to so many things growing up as a farm kid, the outdoors, what country life was, and you just don't know what you don't know as a kid. So like I just took all that for granted. And then of course you grow up and you go to college, and then you realize the world's a huge place, and there's a lot of people that did not grow up like I did, that did not have an upbringing like I did, that didn't grow up playing in a back creek making mud pies and shooting a rifle to sight it in. Like, you only know what you know growing up. So then once I became an adult, once I went to college, graduated, etc., started my life as a young professional, I just recognized how awesome I had it growing up, and how all these things that I took for granted are now really passions of mine and things that I advocate for and things I care about now. Did I necessarily care about them when I was a kid? No, I don't think so. I think life was just life, and you don't really think too deeply at that point. But now as an adult, I recognize how important a lot of these things were to me. My connection to the outdoors, protecting the outdoors, my passion for conservation and agriculture and protecting our resources, water and soil included, Second Amendment rights. I think those are extremely important. I cannot get it in my head how some people think that that needs to be infringed and we need to put more laws and restrictions on that. Like, do we all have to read George Orwell novels again? Like, how many times do we have to understand this setup, the Second Amendment specifically, was put in place by our forefathers because they understood what happens when guns get taken away from the people, the well-regulated militia, us. So I think just growing up the way I did. Now I have these values that have really become passions of mine that I choose to advocate for. And I use social media as a platform to do that because it's a really good way to reach people. It's a really fun way to communicate ideas and concepts and get messages across to people. And I feel like it's been really great. Like the response I've gotten by sharing this stuff, especially in the Second Amendment world, I don't get a lot of pushback with guns. But of course, a lot of my following is Midwestern hunters, people that are exposed to that world. Some of them are not, though. Some people that follow me have never touched a gun in their life. It's a very foreign, scary concept to them. And those people I welcome too. I love having conversations with those people. I just had a conversation with some female real estate agents the other day, and they were talking about how they would like to go to a carry class. They would like to go shoot pistols. They would like to have more confidence in that space because as a female, if you're an attractive looking female in real estate, we all just know from the Ashley Oakland case that got brought back up, her that cold case, her murder of 10 years ago.
Yep.
A nice lady real estate agent was killed at an open house in West Des Moines, which is kind of historically known as like a safer area of the metro. Yep. That shocked a lot of people. And I advocate very strongly for women. Yeah, if you're going to be by yourself, if you're going to be in a situation where you don't have backup, you cannot count on 911. 911 is going to take a little while to get there. Guess what's not? Your pistol. Like, there's just so many reasons to advocate for responsible carrying. I have to say that word in there because I think that is a very key component of it. I do not want to see people just go and buy a gun and then put it in their purse and say, I feel safe now, because that is a very false sense of security, in my opinion. If you're not regularly shooting, you don't feel comfortable with it, you don't know how to properly use it, you don't know even what the laws are in terms of carrying a weapon and what it looks like for self-defense in Iowa. But I'm very passionate about starting that conversation and exposing more people to it because I think it's very important. And we can save a lot of lives, and we can save family members, and we can help a lot of people by properly educating about that topic and being prepared, not because we ever want that situation to happen, but if it does, I darn sure want to make sure I am prepared.
Yeah, the things that you're bringing up are primarily issues of the mind, whether we see them like that or not. I mean, you mentioned, do we need to go read Orwell again? Well, that assumes that anybody read it for the first time. That kind of reading is not something that I see going on very often anymore. When I talk to college age kids, they're soaking up the required reading, but do they truly have a list of classic literature and things of that nature that are foundational to understanding what the world is and what the world isn't, and then juxtaposing that with what the world can be or what had ought to be? Well, they're not doing any of that I'm aware. And if their liberal arts colleges and classes are teaching them that, it's unbeknownst to me because I'm not talking with people who are having those experiences. So we need to prepare our mind and understand these things. You mentioned the Second Amendment a few times earlier. And I think that there is a really serious misunderstanding as to what those words mean. When it talks about a well-regulated militia, well-regulated means practiced. So there's an expectation that you go out and get a weapon and you know how to use it so that you can protect yourself, your neighbor, come to the aid of your country, whatever it may be. And that's what the militia part is. It's a group of sovereign citizens willing and able to form on the fly for the needs of the country, the neighbors themselves, whatever. So people don't really understand what that means. And when they, it's my position, Joy, and I guess you and I haven't talked about any of this. Our prep for this conversation was pretty darn short. So I believe that when people advocate for what you and I might call gun control, what they're really saying to you, whether they realize it or not, is that they've got pretty serious shortcomings with the idea of them or somebody around them using a weapon. That's almost always what it boils down to. So they don't really say, you can't do this. What they're really saying is, your ability to do this makes me uncomfortable. Well, if that's true, and I happen to think that it is, then that's a you problem, not a me problem. And so you need to handle that. You need to work on that or whatever else. But don't take from me something like that, my ability to use a firearm or my whatever. Don't take that from me because you have a mental patch. You've got you're skidding out. There's oil on the road. I don't know. Do you kind of see what I'm saying? It appears as if
Yeah.
they want to take from something from me that they don't actually want for themselves. This isn't like gold or money or my house. They're not taking it. They're not stealing it. They're just saying, well, I don't want you to have it. And what that really says is a lot about them. And I think that we need to, as Second Amendment advocates, understand the position that a lot of these people have, and then start working on how you bridge any of those gaps, if it's possible, because a lot of times there isn't.
No, I agree absolutely. And I think, like you said there, bridging that gap and having that conversation and understanding what is your take on, what is your opinion? What's your side? Why do you want to see regulations come down on gun laws? Why do you want to see regulations coming down on gun use, etc.? Ask them those questions, get their answer, try to like put their thought process in your head as much as possible and figure out then how to communicate to them. Because I agree with you. I think a lot of people are saying, I don't feel comfortable with it. I don't want it around my kids. But I think a huge movement behind the gun regulation and gun control movement is coming from these mass shootings. I don't think we had the public dissonance regarding the Second Amendment in general until we started having these mass shootings. And that is one argument that I think needs to be addressed. And it needs to be very much so addressed, like, respectfully, of course, but like not denying the facts. And the simple facts is that every single mass shooting that we've had since, gosh, I want to say the 70s, those individuals that committed those awful, terrible crimes were on medications. They were on like psychoactive medications. They were on anti-anxiety, antidepressants, all of these things that the general media doesn't want to talk about. Because you and I would love to have you as a neighbor, right? If someone breaks into my house and
you sure about
things
that
going on, well, I know
you should
got
be
my
very
back,
careful,
right?
Joy. Hold on now. Wow.
I'm just
I would
saying,
love to have you as a neighbor.
I don't want Susie Q, who won't get within 12 foot of a gun, to be my neighbor. Because if I need backup and I need help and someone's breaking into my house and you hear about it versus Susie Q, I'm going to feel a lot better having you as a neighbor. And I'm like, Michael's going to be here. He's going to protect. He's going to help. He's got my back. That's the kind of neighbor you want. I don't know anyone that's like, no, I don't want the Navy SEAL living next to me that knows how to handle the emergency situations and knows how to get crap done. No, you want those people in your life. You want that person there in your corner, right? Yeah. So when people have this perception of like, we need gun control laws because of these awful crimes that are being committed, they are awful crimes and they're being committed by awful people that need to have psychotic help. And I think that's something that gets dampened every time these discussions come up about gun control. People want to say, well, we got to do something. Another mass shooting happened. They shot up a church this time. And I'm like, it's not the gun. How many times do we have to have this conversation that the gun is not the problem? It is the person who's holding it. So if we're going to start wanting to have the conversation about regulating and having gun control, what about regulating medications that are causing these mental issues in people? What about regulating the effects that they're having? Because I would argue that the practitioners and the doctors that were prescribing these to those individuals that did those mass shootings are just as much, what's the word?
Well, you might be looking for culpability.
Yes, they're just as much responsible, in my opinion, because they were giving these medications knowing what the effects were, seeing how they were affecting this person, and they get off scot-free. I have a problem with that. I have a problem with there being no accountability in that regard. And I think that's a big area that needs to be addressed when it comes to the gun control, gun laws conversation.
I agree with you, and I wouldn't push back on much, with one exception. You sound as if you believe that they know what the full ramifications are for prescribing this chemical that mixes with the chemicals in this person's body, and that the outcome is known. And I think that that's probably true to a large degree. But I also happen to believe that most of the time, and I think that most is the right word. I think most of the time, Joy, we don't have any idea just how complex the stuff is that we're mixing together. This chemical in this person's body and how it's going to work out for them. And then later on, we're like, well, that didn't work so great. Let's see if we can tweak the meds or whatever else. And when people are honest, I think that really is happening. It's kind of interesting we're talking about this, because this morning I wake up early. So I was up like at 3:30 or a little bit before 4, and I was zipping down through, and I followed Jordan Peterson for a number of years, and his daughter Michaela is a really nice lady. Anyway, Here is something that she wrote just this morning. We figured out that Dad has a psych med-induced neurological injury because
I
you
read
haven't
that
seen
same
George.
post.
Okay, all right. So, and then she goes on and said has been suffering from, I don't know how to pronounce this word, akathisia or
I
something
don't know how
like
to say
that.
it either.
Yeah, it's been 6 years since any psych medications. Last summer, a symptom started after a flare-up likely induced by mold, sears, and stress. It was complicated by pneumonia and associated sepsis a month later. It's been horrible. Neurological injuries from psych meds are far more common than people know.
Yes.
Now, had I considered much about that at all before having read that? Joy, I had not.
Interesting.
But now I can't
You're
get
not a
it off my
conspiracy
mind.
theorist, then, are you?
Me? Well, I don't. Well, of course I am. Are you kidding me? I'm Christian. I'm conservative by nature. I'm a conspiracy theorist by definition.
Okay.
But
Okay.
yeah, but will you come down from the higher range to the slum range? There'll be more of us down there, Joy. You understand how this works. No, I don't know much about that stuff, but I understand. I have a very cursory understanding that when we have chemicals coursing through our bodies, and then we add some or subtract some or counter some in order to get to what you and I may call even keeled. And that's kind of the goal, right? Well, it can't always be done with what we have or the way that we have, or they change. I've got a dear friend that I grew up from the time when I was in high school that has suffered with schizophrenia. His dad was, and it took him years to get the right cocktail of meds. And he'll be honest with you, he's like, yeah, they make me a little sleepy and a little lethargic, but they do work. And it took me literally years to get where I'm at. And then, oh, by the way, as he has become older now, and he's, I guess he'd be 50 something. He's like, I had to make some pretty serious changes in my 40s because I changed, testosterone changed, all these other things changed. And we had to go back to the drawing board a little bit. So this is not as easy as prescribing a person a pill and it's all good. And now we're finding out, there's damage that's done with some of these. And we don't know what it is or just how it's going to affect you. Joy, that's unbelievable. I mean, and I have listened to you talk a few times now about things that are just as contentious, if not more. I mean, you and I might be traveling in the same circles a lot as far as the Second Amendment goes, but if you and I started talking about water quality, we might have people literally listen to this conversation and start getting real prickly because,
good.
we can jump right into it. I own a small farm. I have CRP, and I watch what happens on this farm that was mistreated forever before I got it. And I'm watching all this stuff run off the hills down into my pond. Well, for me, that irritates me because I need to dip the pond out because it's full of all the good black dirt and all the other stuff. But the reality is, I had to start paying attention to how water moved, what it did, how it didn't do. And I had a fish kill in my pond, and that is not the fault of any of my neighbors. I live on top of a hill. I don't think it's the fault of any neighbors. I'm not suggesting for anybody listening out there that it is. But I had all of a sudden, bang, everything died. I mean, everything. I mean, we had stocked this pond. It was beautiful. It was full of all kinds of stuff. I worked with the guys at North Star to pH levels in the water, all these things because it's spring fed all year, which is really nice. I was working on all these things, and all of a sudden it was death. And I mean, it was like the book of Revelation was opening up, dude. I mean, there was
massacre.
Yes, it was. The stench was unbelievable. Everything was floating. I'm like, what just happened? Yeah. And so to be honest with you, here's where I really messed up, Joy. I did not go down and take any water samples. I didn't. I was so miffed that I'm like, well, maybe if I shut my eyes, this beautiful acre pond that my house overlooks will clean up by itself and it's all good. So I ignored it because I was really, really angry. And 15 years of stocking a new species every 2 years and building this thing up in a nice balance, done, over. I got to start over. So I didn't do that, but I'll admit freely, I'm super curious on why one day this balanced ecosystem that was absolutely beautiful ended.
Yeah. I think if you would have been able to get water samples right away and send it to like the state hygienic lab, you probably would have found your answers. Unfortunately, you wanted to grab it sooner than later because I don't know how long ago this fish kill occurred, but absolutely. And it's frustrating because you're doing all the right things. If you have a buffer around your pond, if you're, looking at the drainage that's entering your pond, all of a sudden to have a complete fish kill like that, it's like, yeah, something that was not supposed to be in your pond ended up there. Now, whether that's aerial spraying or exactly some drift, hard to say, and you won't know exactly what chemicals were present there if you couldn't monitor right away. But that's frustrating. And I think the water quality issue extends beyond that. It extends beyond our recreation and our love for fishing and nature and ecosystems. It goes into our water quality that we're consuming, the health of our water that we're drinking every single day. And as you probably know, I don't think anyone in the state of Iowa doesn't know at this point. If they don't, they're living under a rock. But Iowa has the fastest growing cancer rate in the entire country. Number one. Like, we're number one in a lot of things, like pork and eggs. And, oh, by the way, fastest growing cancer rate. That's appalling. That is highly concerning. And I think that there's a portion of the state that's kind of just like shut off their brain, and it's like out of sight, out of mind. And they're like just kind of checked out and it's whatever. And I think there's my generation that's thinking about having kids and raising a family and settling down and really like establishing a life here in the state that are second guessing that decision because of something like that. It feels that there have been people making decisions for this state without the best interest of its people. And that's very frustrating as someone who, myself, I take care of my body. I treat my body as a temple and a vessel. I eat healthy. I pay attention to what I consume. I do my research on things before I put anything. I'm not on any medications. I'm healthy as a horse because I pay attention to the things I put in my body. So this discussion of water quality and this crisis that we're dealing with right now in the state is very frustrating for me because I love this state and I want to be here, and I advocate so hard for all the wonderful things about this place that I call home. At the same time, I'm very frustrated and concerned that maybe it's not going to be the best place for me to raise my own kids 10 years from now if we don't get some change occurring at the state level. So the water quality issue, I'm very passionate about it, and I'm willing to have the conversation with literally anyone. I know some people that think it's a scam. I know people that will say all these things about the water quality crisis. And as someone who used to work in the conservation and agriculture space as a water quality professional, this has been going on for a while. This is not something that is just recent because it hit the headlines last year. This has been happening for a long time. And dare I say, my conspiracy tinfoil hat brain, that they have known for a long time how nitrates are affecting our health. That has not been a recent thing. And we still have people, not to bring up politics, at our state level that are saying it's a myth. There's literally a legislator from my hometown on record a few weeks ago saying that nitrates causing cancer is a myth. Full stop. And I have a hard time picturing what the state will look like for my kids someday when we still have people, decision makers at the state level, saying things like that. And, you and I, we love to shoot. We love gun competitions. We love that world. That world doesn't matter if you and I get diagnosed with cancer tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it's so important that we pay attention to like the health of the state and the health of our people, because nothing else matters if your health is tanked. Nothing. I mean, I can share so many stories, people I know, people in my family, that all of a sudden everything matters until only one thing matters when you get sick. And I just see so many people getting diagnosed with cancer, people in our communities, young people my age. I'm 27 years old. There's no reason a 27-year-old should be getting diagnosed with cancer. I have a friend who has had cancer and he just had a reemergence and he's 30. There's no reason we should have that problem in this state. That is a silly problem to have battles about. And frankly, the water quality problem is a bipartisan issue. I get very frustrated when left and right start bickering about it. I'm like, you and I are drinking the same water. How is this a political issue? Do you and me want to live in a thriving state and not have to worry about our water having potential negative health effects long term? That's just a common desire. I don't think I'm asking too much when I ask for that.
You're not, but you said earlier, it's a scam. Well, the problem with that is there are scammers who are taking advantage of this already. I'm seeing things pop up. Oh, you need this to filter out your water so that you don't have any nitrates or whatever else. I'm like, whoa. Some of these things are altered almost or adjacent to a molecular level. your filter is not going to help you. You know what I mean? So there are people out there that are going to take full advantage of what you're talking about. I have no doubt. I mean, my best friend and his wife, I mean, when we grew up in Southwest Iowa, we went a lot of places and did a lot of things, and we ended up settling here in central Iowa, just down the road from one another. We've always been good friends. I am certain that we always will be, right? And they had a daughter like, I don't know, a week and a half after my wife and I adopted our daughter. And so they were best friends. You know, it was this little storybook thing, right? And this little girl was at my house playing. I work right beside my house, right? I have a shop here. And so this little girl and my daughter were playing all day. And I remember the wife came and picked up the little girl. I'm like, I think there's something wrong with her. She's kind of staggering around like she's drunk. And we both had a short little giggle about it. I'm like, no, I'm not kidding. I'm like, she's kind of swaying around. She's not quite with it. And I don't remember what day that was. It was like a Tuesday or something. And Thursday, she fell over and they took her to the emergency room, and she had a massive tumor in the base of her brain. And there was a stroke associated with that and all the other stuff. And they fought a cancer battle for a little over a year and a half. And she eventually succumbed, right? And so I'm sitting back here, you know, I'm watching my daughter go through these things. I'm watching this family that I love. And they're huge parts of my life go through this epic struggle. And I can't help but think back to my hometown of Bedford, Iowa, where there was just 1,500 people, and thinking how many little girls that I had remembered that they were holding fundraisers for, whatever else, that had brain cancer in this little tiny town. And I'm thinking to myself, you hear people say, well, it must be something in the water down there. And they're half joking and they're half telling the truth. And I remember thinking, and I'm still thinking it today, I wonder if there was something in the water. I wonder if it was something that was in our environment that we thought was okay, or we didn't know there was a problem that we were using, whether it was the fork we were eating off, the water we were consuming, the stuff put off by our furnaces that's circulating conditioned air around the house. I don't know. I have no idea. But I can tell you that it seems odd that there is so much of this around here in a state that has a lot going for it. I mean, I'm watching these things change a little bit here and there to make this, we're going to make these tax reforms. And we're going to not make it so hard on you when you retire. We're slowly shaping the state in a place that you want to live, stay, or move to and stay. You want to remain instead of get educated and move away, all these things. And now I'm like, you've worked so hard for so many years to make this the kind of place and posture so that it's what would you say? It's so easy to embrace and enjoy. And now you've got this dark cloud that everybody wants to deny. I'm like, I don't know if the water's bad, but I think that it's worth finding out. And if it is, what is it we're going to do about it? And nobody wants to talk about it.
Exactly.
Everybody's angry. Or I will also say this, and you're on the edge of this generation. You say you're 27, 28, something like that?
Yep, 27.
Okay, so you are immersed in the group that literally got the shaft from COVID. I mean, these kids, and I say kids, these young adults were denied graduations. They were denied a college experience, all these other things because of staying away from one another and all this other stuff. And just regardless of what my opinion is on that, that's really got nothing to do with the past. But I will say this. It appears to be a group of people who won't join anything and don't believe much. I'm not suggesting nihilism so much as I'm saying they're looking around saying, I think I was bamboozled. I think I was flim-flammed, and I have a natural distrust for you now, whether you're in government, private sphere, a church, anybody who offers me the idea of authority, I'm pushing back on. And I'm saying, maybe I'm not saying, to heck with you, but it's more of,
I don't trust you.
I don't believe you, and I don't trust you, and I have good reason to not trust you. Do you see that? I mean, is that part of what we're doing here or not?
Oh, absolutely. I think my generation has grown up in such a both politically averse and just like government distrust type ecosphere that there isn't much faith in anything. I think so much of my generation is like, well, it's all a sham and we're being lied to. No matter what it is, whether it's corporate interest or it's the government, or here it comes to like gaslighting about our water quality and the fact that we have a huge cancer problem. And it just seems like there aren't people that really are fighting for us. Like we've been told, these people that we're supposed to trust, we're supposed to look up to, like you said, authority. Why don't they have our best interest? It is very clear they don't have our best interest based off of the decisions and the current state of affairs. So I think my generation has just been so not laid back, but just not interested, because it just feels like we're being lied to and it's all a sham. So what's the point? And I try to push back really hard against that, because I feel that as well. And I completely empathize with it and I understand it. But I also recognize that this is exactly when the pendulum swings. It is this point in society when my generation says, okay, what can we learn from these mistakes of our parents? What can we learn from the boomers that we don't want to replicate? Now is our opportunity to have some leadership and take hold and recognize that it's still our future. Even if these people made poor decisions for us that are affecting us today, it's still our future and our kids' future that we have the ability to change. And it's not going to happen if we all sit on our butts and scroll on our phones and don't pay attention and join something, become active in an organization, speak out and advocate, do whatever, run for office. I don't give a crap. Like, do something, because doing nothing is not the answer. And that is not going to build the future that I think my generation really wants.
Well, there's so much about this that we don't know. It could be a little daunting when you think about it as to where you start. I remember a really good friend of mine is I don't know what you'd call him in terms of his farming size. I think that they farm like between what they own and lease, I don't know, maybe a little bit south of 4,000 acres. And that keeps him and his family and the hired men that he's got, the hired hands, very, very busy, right? But I remember a number of years ago, I wish I could remember the film title, David versus Monsanto.
Oh,
yeah. Does that sound right?
I haven't seen the film, but I think I know what you're talking about.
Okay, this gentleman up in Canada and the guys next door that were Roundup resistance stuff cross-pollinated over to his crop, and he couldn't actually get rid of that because it was, resistant to anything he could use to spray on it to be rid of it. And so it decimated his crop. And then to make matters worse, they were able to they claim an intellectual claim. Well, we don't care that our product cross-pollinated and the wind moved it down onto your farm. That's ours, no matter how it got there. So you need to not only suffer that your crop failed because of it, but that's ours. So you owe us money for that as well. You know what I mean? So it was really, really bad. And it's a film worth watching, not because I'm advocating one way or another, because I'm not sure I still truly understand it. But what it brought up in me now is the lower range slums, the conspiracy theorist among us here. I thought to myself, well, if this thing traveled across the fence, how far do these things travel? And I end up finding out that depending on winds and whatever else, time of year, moisture, temperature, daylight versus dark, that this stuff could lift up and be transported 50 miles. So when we tinker with Mother Nature, and I'm not saying that we should not, but
I'm saying we should not.
Well, I question okay, I think we should be questioning what we do not know. And I don't think we do that enough. We run out and we're like, hey, we developed this new thing. It's going to be great. And somebody in government, that's probably a flunky, by the way, in my opinion, says, okay, stamp, and you're good to go. You're like, whoa, wait a minute. We didn't have to test it. And then you go over, and I'm not saying that they're better or they're worse because I don't know this, but I am hearing that like the European markets, they will tell you, well, that sounds great. We think that could really be super for livestock. We could think that would be super for our production. Our crops, whatever else, anything that we're going to try and grow repeatedly. Why don't you come back in 30 years with all your testing and let us know how it works out? And after those long-term trials are done, we'll give you an answer on whether you can sell this or not. And oh my God, that's so costly. That'd take forever. I'm like, no, it doesn't take forever. Just takes
It
30
would
years.
save them billions in lawsuits, though, if their product turns out to be harmful to people. And that is the question that we're not asking. What are the consequences? Sure, this might be a great product. It might be an efficient and effective product. But if we are not asking the question, what are the long-term consequences? What are the short-term consequences? What are the health impacts? What are the biological impacts? We don't know what we're playing with. We are playing with fire. And I think man in general, we kind of have this egotistical sense that like we can out engineer or, outproduce anything. We can get our way out of anything. And I cannot see a single point in history, not a single event that has occurred in the past where Mother Nature did not win in the end. There is no defeating her. It is so funny to me how people are like, well, we engineered this canal and we have this system set up that's streamlined here, and then we got this all this, canal, this, that. And then a flood happens and the water pressure was so high, it didn't matter how well you engineered XYZ. Mother Nature, she is a force to be reckoned with, and she always wins in the end. And I think we have to just understand that and not have this egotistical sense that like we can do anything. We're mankind, we're human beings, because that didn't work out so well for Adam and Eve. I don't know if people need to go back and read Orwell or they need to go back and read Genesis, because it didn't work for Adam and Eve. When they thought they could play God, what happened? Now we have childbirth, okay? Like the pains of childbirth. No, all those things are just like man's sin. And I think just our egotistical nature that we can do whatever we want and there aren't going to be consequences and it's going to be fine. And it's ruined a lot. It's ruined health. It's ruined some of our natural resources. It's ruined a lot of legislation. And I think we need to be very mindful about putting people in places of leadership and power that have integrity and will ask that question of, should we be doing this? Might it be effective? Might it be efficient? But what are the consequences? How will this impact my community? A good friend of mine is actually running for governor in the state of Iowa, and he asks this question all the time. Zach Lane. He will say this is something that the Amish community asks before they make a big decision that's going to impact everyone. They said, what will this change do to our community? And he brings up an excellent point that I don't think our legislators and some of the people in power in the state have asked that question in a long time. And it shows when you walk outside your front door and you look at our water quality problems, you look at our education problems, you look at some of the cultural problems, you look at some of the health problems. And I argue those matter. On the hierarchy of things, we got to get that foundation down so people like you and I can go to the shooting range and we can do what we love. Because if we're getting cancer and we don't have good education and we have all these other issues in the state of Iowa, the things that we enjoy, that we like to do, aren't going to be as enjoyable because we're suffering at a base level.
Joy, every single person listening to this, watching this, whatever it may be, all of them, there are no exceptions. Everybody listening or watching has been directly affected by cancer. Either you've got it, you've had it, you will have it, or somebody that has, and many have expired. I mean, this is, when you read down through it, now granted, it was a little different. I don't know if I can make a case for there being cancer as you read down through the Bible or not. There were certainly things that afflicted them that they
Leprosy.
talked about, right? Yeah, I mean, that's one that pops out, and which is ugly, by the way. Nobody wants to have that. I mean, when you see an armadillo, don't pick it up. You know what I mean? But
I think they're kind of
cute. From a distance, just some prairie dogs. You don't want to handle them either.
They're like armored possums. What do you mean? They're so cute.
I know. I have heard, actually, a side note, I have heard that there have been some that have been made their way so far up that they're in a few places in southern Iowa now.
It's true. Yes, I've seen it. In southern Iowa, there's been some roadkill ones, which is crazy.
Oh man, we need more. We need more of those armadillos. We also need more feral pigs. If we really want to take this thing to the next level, we'll let those guys move in and see how it goes. I mean, it's going to be horrible. I mean, but it's a real problem. And that was another thing. Uncle Sam helped us with that. Oh, we need to put some game in here to bring people into the state so they can hunt in Texas again, blah, blah, blah. Let's set these pigs loose. I'm like, are you sure that's a good idea? 3 months,
what
3
are
weeks,
the consequences
sure?
of this?
Yeah. Well, I think what we're really saying here is, and I'll read you this note real quick, and I'm curious what you think about it. But it appears as if It appears as if we need to import a little humility, if not a lot of humility, into these things. And we did interview Zach. IFC has a series of what we call the candidate files, and all the gubernatorial candidates that were on our side of the aisle have come on, and we've interviewed him. And Zach was an exceedingly nice guy. Frankly, they all were. And so none of the Democrats have been willing to do that. Maybe they will. And we've asked lots and lots of times, but he was a nice interview, and I enjoyed listening to him. He was a very genuine man, so it was nice. In case you guys are listening, you should go check those out so you can hear where these people stand on your issues and learn a little bit about them. But when I talk about there being a need for some humility, sometimes, Joy, when I'm having these conversations, and frankly, it is a blessing, I'm enjoying talking with you. I sense that when we get done with this and we wrap up and we go our separate ways, that we may circle back to one another sometime. And if we do that, that would be great. I would really look forward to it. You seem
At
like
the range.
maybe if you go Fleming, or if I get the ticket to go up high, be like, hey, I want to go for I don't know.
Hey, I hang in the slums now. I just told you, so I'll see you in the
Oh,
low
that's
range.
right. That's right. Okay. All right. Well, we got room. What I'm saying, we need to import a little humility here. This is from talking with so many guests over such a period of time, and these are the kinds of conversations that I have routinely. I'm blessed to be able to do that. I've got a shop where people come in. I go a lot of places, etc. So this is the definition of science, and I tweak this from time to time based on thoughts and unearthing a little bit more of an idea. But let me lay this on you, and you tell me what you think. And this is my definition of science: the attempt to find out as much about the world as currently possible prior to invoking God.
I love that. Where'd you find that?
Well, it's an amalgamation of some different people and different things. None of these thoughts.
Oh, that's an original quote from you?
That's my definition. No. I'm not saying that somebody hasn't said that before. I'm saying that these are concepts that I've kind of put together, right? So I'll read that one more time. The definition of science: the attempt to find out as much about the world as currently possible prior to invoking God. Now, if you think about what that really means and the implications of that, what we're really saying is, I don't know very much. He does. And I'm going to give it a whirl. And when I talk with people about this, and I throw that out on whether it's a dinner party, sitting around at a campfire, at a bonfire, church meeting, whatever it may be, every now and then there'll be somebody that bites. They'll be like, well, I don't understand. What are you trying to say? I'm like, okay, I wasn't there for all of this, but I'm envisioning how this looked, whether Cain pushed Abel down or whether he bashed him over the head with a rock, not quite sure. But it's likely to assume that the blood that was on the inside of his body made its way out. And it would be logical at that point to say, from a scientific standpoint, well, I don't know much about the body, but I know the red stuff is supposed to stay inside. And when a whole bunch of it leaves, that's bad, And then and that was science. That was the definition of what was going on, or that was the data that we had that we could work with. Now, fast forward a little bit farther, and there was battling and all that stuff. Blood eventually got in your mouth. You had it. Somebody else was over. Oh, blood's sweet. Then you find out blood contains sugar. Then you find out that sugar is C6H12O6. Then you find out that there are little tiny things inside of it. There are atoms. There are molecules. There are all these other things. Oh, my goodness. This is DNA. This is a blueprint for life. Oh, my goodness. We look even further, and contained in the DNA is a blueprint to how to build a human being. So instead of taking salt water, Joy, putting in a pot and boiling it and seeing that when we reduce it down, it becomes simpler and less complex, what we find is it gets more complex. So our definition of all these things changes with data and time because we're unearthing more. So what you and I believe today, right now, Joy, what we think is fact is not fact. It is temporary because scientific facts change without a doubt over time because we unearth more data, and that provides us a different model. So it looks different. So the more we work, the more we realize things are not simplistic. They become more complex when we tinker with what the big guy made. And maybe we're making some big mistakes because if you ask me if moral facts change over time, I would tell you they do not. And scientific facts do. Moral fact would be, should Cain have killed Abel? Is murder wrong? Yeah, it's wrong. Well, it was wrong 7,000 years ago. It's wrong today. But the scientific facts that you could extrapolate logically, again, I wasn't there, from what we saw then all the way through those ages to now has changed radically over that time. Joy, we don't know what we don't know, and we're not paying any attention to it.
I agree. And I love that you're saying science is fluid. It's changing. It's always developing. We're always learning more. I think the scientific community has done a horrid job of putting a stake in the ground and saying, well, we found out this and this is the way it is. And anyone that counters that or asks questions about it is a threat to our finding. It's like, no, that is exactly the necessary ideology of science, to always question what we find out and ask why, and then replicate the study and then do it again, because we only know what we know. And I think we know so little. I think we are so dumb. We have this concept that like we lack so much humility. We think we're so intelligent. Yeah, we are the King Kong of the animal kingdom species for sure, but we are so dumb. And history proves that over and over again, right? You can look in the history books and be like, oh, we screwed up there. That was a bad idea. Then we didn't figure out about the plague. And then we had this world war and like, oh, we're really not that smart. We can't even learn how to get along with each other. Like we're pretty dumb creatures. And that's why we're referred to as sheep in the Bible, right?
Right.
So that question of, no, go ahead.
Well, it's for me personally, and I realize that this is a long way for some people, but it isn't a long way for me to say, well, for me, it's really about love. Because what's a loving act? There's a loving act to be dedicated to science, because I'm not hacking on scientists. People think that I am. I'm like, no, I have a great reverence for scientists, researchers. I really do. What I don't have a reverence for is pride or arrogance, because we get in a place where like, this is the answer. Well, it appears as if that's the answer, and I hope you're right. But do you actually, do you actually love me and everybody else enough to keep on challenging your own discovery to make certain over and over and over that you are right, rather than having been right enough for you to say that I'm right? And some people's brains freeze when I say that. I'm like, no, dude, think about it. The loving act is to continue on, is to challenge your own theory, your own findings, to make doubly sure, triply sure, quadruple sure that you're right, and then keep on doing it. Because if you think this is solved, how many times have we thought that in history and found out we were just wrong? Dead wrong. So, and that's the same thing with me in the Second Amendment. I have people, oh, you're a baby killer. You hate children because you love guns, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, I don't love guns. I mean, it's a medium that I work within, and I'm really good at it. But that's irrelevant. What I'm saying to you is the loving act is to stop a threat to somebody else.
Yes.
And then immediately pivot to life-saving mode, because I know CP, you're not prepared to do it. So the reality is I love you enough in order to be honest with you about the nature of these things, and to tell you, I want to see you well. I want to see you protected. I've got a daughter who's 16. I think about these things all the time. I know that the schools that she's going into and the circles that she's going to run in, that it's a 60% likelihood that she'll be a victim of some sort of
violent crime.
No, it's not that. It's basically some sort of sexual indiscretion over her time.
Yeah.
I mean, whether it's I'm not necessarily saying rape only, but some sort of
sexual violence.
Yeah, sexual violence in some fashion. I mean, that's the likelihood. And I have to explain to my daughter, who's 16, listen, this is highly likely to happen. And if you do this, this, and this, I would say that you're arguably less likely to be a victim. But I need you to know that this can and will happen. If it doesn't happen to you, statistically, it will happen to your best friend. So between the two of you, one of you is definitely going to experience this. So how are you going to ward against that? What are you going to do? The loving act is for me to prepare my daughters. The loving act is for me to prepare my sons and all these other things, so that they can avoid this, stop this, or put themselves in a less likely position for these things to take place. That's the loving act. Not to bury my head in a bucket of sand and say, if this was uninvented, none of these things will happen. Well, that's true, but that's not the world we live in. So we're going to be honest and loving, or not.
And that ideology,
for water quality, as it is for the Second Amendment. It's the same
thing. And that ideology really is the best of humanity. Taking that approach to things and saying, is this love? That is like such a profound way to look at it. But I think it is almost the basic core of all these issues, right? How am I impacting someone else's life? What is this doing to our community? What is this doing to my children? How is this impacting people that I claim to love, that I claim to want to serve and help and have their best interest? am I doing that in my life? Am I doing that by the actions and the way that I represent myself and the way that I help others, the choices I make?
Well, a really smart person wrote in a really good book once that we were to love God and love one another.
Yeah.
And so he simplified these complexities and said, I want you to do this. And it seems like when we try to apply that, we end up with better potential outcomes. And even if we don't,
Yeah, go figure.
yeah. And what's kind of funny about this is, and I talk to people, well, I did this and I ended up with this. And I'm like, no, no, no. You're not guaranteed an outcome by loving God and loving one another. You're guaranteed that you're fulfilling his request. And
Yes.
that's good enough. So regardless of the outcome, sometimes you get what you need, not what you want. I mean, we know that. I mean, everybody's called into a radio station, at least back in the day we did, and you made your request. And sometimes you heard it, sometimes you didn't. But that's
Yeah.
just the way that it is. I mean, so you can go forward knowing I did the best with what I had, and I can be satisfied with that. I
Yeah.
don't know if we do that when we're talking about bridging any of these gaps with the Second Amendment, or bridging any of these gaps with our water, the basic thing that we know that we're not going to survive very long without. I mean, what's the average person get? 3 days ish with no water intake and they expire?
Yeah. Somewhere around there. I've never
Yeah.
tried, so I don't know. We'll have to take it to science.
It's bad. I mean, I've got a friend who was on Naked and Afraid, and they were telling me, like, it's so bad, it's unbelievable. They're like, you don't realize what basic comforts are. Oh, by the way, shoes. That's a big deal when you're out in the wilderness running around. The Amish can do it because they have feet that don't use a lot of shoes from time to time.
Yeah, they're
And
hobbits.
yeah, I didn't want to say hobbits. I was thinking of Frodo, but I didn't. You said it, not me. But when you see them running around and doing these things, and a lot of them are barefooted from time to time, you're like, well, how do you pull that off? Well, you use your feet enough, and they harden up, and you're protected somewhat. If you're a tenderfoot and you got in the wilderness and decide you're going to run around for a few weeks, it's horrible. But beyond that, this buddy of mine said shoes are a big deal. But oh, by the way, what's worse is water. If you don't have any idea what it's like in most places, anybody listening to this, to truly hunger and thirst, to think to yourself, that rancid pool of water I know has probably got amoebas in it, and I'm probably going to get dysentery. But oh, by the way, I might drink that knowing that I'll die in a really horrible way because I absolutely can't not drink water. That's a horrible place to be.
Yeah.
And I think that the people listening to this right now are probably agreeing, yeah, that sounds pretty horrible. Well, we're on the cusp of that right now, and you're not even thinking about it.
Yeah, potable water. That's the concept too. Is like, okay, we get a lot of rainfall. We have a lot of precipitation here in the state of Iowa. So the volume and quantity of water is not scarce. We're not like a Western state where they're averaging like 6 to 10 inches of rainfall a year, precipitation in total, snow included. But if you can't drink it, that's a problem. If it's not potable and it's not healthy and it's going to cause illness and sickness, does it still matter how much you have? And that's the argument I make. It's like we're so blessed in this state with really amazing amounts of precipitation every year. But when it comes to our drinking water, if it's killing us, that's a slight issue. Volumes may not be the problem, but the quality definitely is. And I am one of those people that has a water filtration system in my home. I have a very geeky, nerdy one because I nerd out on it. And it has 11 different filters, different stages that I run it through. It remineralizes the water before it comes out of my faucet as well. So like extra nerdy, geeky, but I recognize that it is a source of contaminants. And it's something you consume every day. It's not like the cheeseburger that maybe you eat once a week, right? It's like there's certain things that you may do in your life, but you're not doing them every single day, not at a regular routine pace. Water is something you drink every single day. That is an unavoidable part of life. So you could be living an extremely healthy lifestyle. You could be doing all the right things, eating whole foods in season, getting sunlight, lowering your stress load, etc. What say you? But if you are consuming water that is not filtered, that is regularly very high in nitrates, I believe exceeding the level, because the EPA argues, 10 milligrams per liter. And I'm like, I think if you're regularly consuming an average of like 5 to 7 milligrams per liter, I think that's problematic. And a lot of people in the Des Moines metro, if they're getting their tap water from Des Moines Water Works, you can look at what the levels are. throughout the year, you could be consistently consuming 5 milligrams per liter of nitrate in your water over half the year. That's a problem. Filter that out. I argue that is a huge difference maker.
Does your filtration system add fluoride back in so the government control your mind from satellites? No.
Yeah, no, because I just want to be brain controlled by the government, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I've always been against fluoride. Before it was like a MAHA cool thing to do. For those that don't know MAHA, the Make America Healthy Again movement or whatever. I've always been like, why are they putting this in our water? Why are municipalities putting this in our water? If I want to put it in my water, that's fine, right? I can put whatever I want in my water. But the fact that it's being forced upon us always kind of had me like a little freaky deeked out. I'm like, this doesn't make sense. Why are they putting this in our water? And then when you ask them why they do, if you'd call municipalities and actually talk to someone and say, why are you putting fluoride in our water? They will literally have the answer, because it's what we've always done.
Yeah.
And it's because it's what's regulated. And I'm like, so you have absolutely no understanding why you're putting this substance in our water. Why can't I just add it? If I want it so badly, why can't I just get a dropper of fluoride and add it to my water bottle every single day? That seems like the logical explanation. Right? Why aren't you adding electrolytes to our water? Why aren't you adding minerals to our water? Why aren't you adding any of that? No, but fluoride, gee whiz. Little brain control there. Yeah, I know. When I tell people about that, people are always like, what are you talking about? And I'm just like, don't you know that like they put fluoride in World War II concentration camps because it has like been shown to make you more docile and like dampened essentially. So you're like more easy to just like go along with stuff. And people are like, no, that's not true. And I'm like, really? You want me to find it for you? Like, do you want me to show you? Fluoride in water.
You're gonna screw around and get us both knocked off because the NSA's they're like, hey, we got 2 more. You guys are gonna have to, these guys are gonna have to be handled. We got to go on a disinformation campaign, and the Joy of All Trades Instagram page is going to have to come down. I'm going to share that right now real quick because I had forgot to do that earlier. For those of you watching, you'll be able to see that this is the Joy of All Trades Instagram. She has plenty of social media, but check this out. As I zip down through here, there's all kinds of stuff. So you're popping around with fresh little, what is this? Some sort of goat?
It's a goat, yes.
I've never seen a goat with that kind of coloring. That's kind of cool.
Oh yeah, there's like moon spots. Yeah, that's a really pretty one.
Turkey, did you get that this year?
That turkey was from last year. I haven't gone turkey hunting yet this spring, but I will be here soon.
Okay, all right. I'm seeing apparently some sort of egg.
Yeah, big protein girly.
All right. What was it? Red Angus that we've got there?
Yep. I was talking about a cost-share conversion program from row crop to pasture that is implemented in the state of Iowa. Actually, in your original neck of the woods, right now it's only available in Southwest Iowa, but I would like to advocate for it to be available more widely in more counties across the state because I think it would help with some of the erosion issues that we're dealing with. So I was just talking about that in that reel.
Cool. So some sort of grains. Are you eating that or are you?
I'm fresh milling flour in that video. So I fresh mill my own grains and make my own bread.
What are you using some sort of small hand mill or what?
No, it's a mill. It's a stone mill actually.
Yeah.
So it uses like stones to quite literally grind up the grain.
Yeah, which one? Which model?
It's a Nutrimill.
Okay. All right.
It's called a Harvest Mill, I believe is the one I have.
Yep. And then what we've got, I see a little bit of range work, tummy touching going on.
The little workout sesh.
Yep. So you're shooting plates there. You're running some sort of carbine. What's that thing in the jar?
That is sauerkraut. That is homemade sauerkraut.
Oh, my dad would have, if my dad was alive, he'd love to see something like that. He spent a lot of time in Germany when he was in the army and he loves that kind of stuff. I remember as a kid, some of the stuff that we were subjected to in terms of our diet was not what the neighbor kids had, you know. I mean, we were eating squash blossoms and stuff like that, and the neighbor kids would come over and they'd be like, I'm not eating a flower. I'm like,
You're
well,
like, what
actually,
is this?
they're pretty good. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, my grandmother picks the squash blossoms, and then we bread them, and then we fry them, and they're really good. And they're like, I'm not eating a tulip. I'm like, dude, it's not a tulip. It's good. But I felt the same way when I was first. I mean, when you grow up and you have all these different things, and you don't
It's normal to
realize.
you.
Yeah, I mean, they are normal. And then your friends come and like, don't you guys have like macaroni or something? I'm like, well, sure.
We
Not
have
very
that
often.
too, but try this.
Ooh,
It'll be good for
rattlesnake
you.
master. That's nice looking stuff.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite native forbs.
They this CRP that I've got surrounding our place here around the farm, around the CCA North American headquarters compound. It's kind of interesting because the gentleman that his family that owned it before, one of the grandsons worked in forestry or whatever else and traveled through the Midwest, up north and out west. And he had picked tons of seeds over the years and was able to get some really, really fantastic stuff repopulated on here. And I've worked very hard to keep it. I mean, there's some stuff running around here that you don't see very often. So, I mean, I've had people come by like, what is that thing? Is that a sunflower? I'm like, no, dude, that's a compass plant. You don't see it a lot. There's pockets here and there, but I've had to learn to identify these things over the years and kind of keep them going. I was going to mention that we were talking about the fish kill. I don't have any idea if it was some sort of spray that lifted up and moved and came down. I don't know. But what I can tell you is I've got a gentleman that comes out and sets up several hives every year, and he had absolutely no trouble. So I don't know if it was some sort of spray, or my gut tells me probably not, because he had no issue with these bees or whatever. He said it was one of the best years he ever had last year. Now, I can tell you the honey was exceedingly dark. I don't know if that's a reflection of the CRP and some of the crops.
Yeah, I was gonna say that'll be from what they're pollinating.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, and last year was just a lot of corn and bean rotations around here like normal. So I don't know why that would have been. But anyway, well,
that is interesting.
All right, so we're zipping down there, and for you people again who are listening, joy of all trades, and there's an underscore at the beginning and everything that. But you can find her on Instagram, other places. Where are the other places people can find you?
Facebook, TikTok. Those are the main ones I'm on.
Okay. Hey, do you ever watch Clarkson's Farm?
I don't think so. Clarkson's Farms?
Yeah, Clarkson's Farm on Amazon Prime. You ever watch it?
I don't have Amazon Prime.
Well, that's your problem right there.
Yeah. I know. I feel like there's so many good things on Amazon Prime. Every once in a while, I'll like dog sit for someone or house sit for someone who has it, and then I'll like have to binge something, but.
Yeah. Well, the only reason I ask is somehow we stumbled across it. And I don't know if you ever heard of Grand Tour GT and Jeremy Clark over in the UK or whatever else. So he's got this farmstead. I don't know, a little over 1,000 acres. I think it's somewhere west and north of London, out past Oxfordshire, in that area. Anyway, it's a semi-reality show. It is, but I mean, he's trying to make it work as a farmer that doesn't know much about farming, and because there are all kinds of funnies that go along with it, but there are serious components. And he's got this farm divided up into, he's got a crop rotation. They're growing all kinds of things there that we don't grow here very much. It's not that I'm aware of, like oilseed rape and some of that other stuff where they draw oil from it. And he's growing durum wheat and other things like that for pasta, etc. But he's got all kinds of livestock, and then he's got a component of this, I think almost 1/3 of it, that's unfarmed. So whether it be, the what you and I might call CRP or a CP25, where there's got a whole bunch of legumes and forbs and all kinds of different stuff out there. It's really interesting to watch this, because I sense that he really does care about these things and the plight of a farmer, juxtaposed to an inordinate amount of government red tape and bureaucracy. Because if you think that we've got bureaucracy here in the United States, go try the UK.
Yeah.
I mean, to listen to some of the stuff that these people have put up with is crazy. But by the same token, I think they think that they're helping one another. So I don't know where this works, because when we come back to the conversation of the Second Amendment and gun control or water quality, what we do and don't do about it, I find myself a little torn. because I want good water, but I don't necessarily have a great deal of confidence in the people who are making these decisions. And because I had worked in the diesel engine industry for a number of years, I know what it's like to have Uncle Sam come in and say, you have to do this to your engine so that the stuff coming out the tailpipe is as clean or cleaner than the stuff going in. And the amount of cost and the amount of stuff pushed downstream to the customer who are paying for this ultimately is absolutely insane compared to what they're actually getting. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so there are times when I've looked at this and said, this is way out of whack. You guys, A, don't know what you're doing, and B, if you did, I question whether you do this anyway.
Yeah.
So I really find myself with a toe in each camp on some of these issues. And I'm not sure exactly where to fall.
And that's one thing I always try to advocate for on my social media platform is voluntary change. And as someone who used to work in conservation agriculture, that's what I did. I worked with farmers and landowners, and I said, hey, I have money for cost share for these conservation practices that help improve water quality, that help keep our soil in place, reduce soil erosion, things like that. And I want you to come and take it. I want to work with you. I want you to voluntarily choose to implement this on your land, because there will come a day when it's not a choice, because we kicked this can down the road so hard that legislation will come down and say, all right, we're going to start enforcing these things. We're going to do this and that, because the problem has gotten out of hand. It is out of hand. We have the fastest growing cancer rate. Like, ta-da, we're here. We screwed around and found out. Like, now we're dealing with the consequences. But I've always just had that mindset that I'm not for more government regulation. I'm very like libertarian mindset where I'm like, can we just not have the government come in and just rain down on all these regulations? Yeah, but when it comes to public health matters, when it comes to something as simple as our water quality, what are we the people to do in this situation? So I completely understand where you're coming from too, because that's how I feel. That's where I'm at. I don't want to see more regulations put on people, but I have the expectation that I shouldn't be scared of my drinking water. So what does that look like? And it wasn't that long ago that the farming community in the EU was having protests. They were throwing manure on the front gates of legislative houses. Like, it was really bad over there. And a lot of people here in the US have no idea that even happened. And I said, look at what happened over in Germany. Look what happened in France. That's coming here. Mm-hmm. That's going to come here, because there will be regulations put on landowners and farmers where they say, we can't do this. It's going to make us bankrupt, which that's already a whole nother issue right now. We're having an extreme amount of bankruptcies, farm bankruptcies in the state of Iowa. It's very sad. Midwest in general. But when you look at that, the history of what happened over there in Germany and France, everything that happens in the EU usually trickles its way over here. It's kind of funny how that happens, right? When you look at things, it may not be the next year, and it may not be 5 years, it may not even be 10 years, but like, those things are coming. And I don't want to see that happen. But if we don't start making change now, it's going to. So that is something I always try to push on my platform too, is like, let's learn how to use cover crops now. Let's start no-tilling now. Let's put prairie strips and buffer strips on all our streams now, because we can maybe help this problem before it gets really bad, and then there will be no choice but regulation.
Yeah, I don't think that anybody out there, or very few people, even understand what you're talking about. If you give an example like, now I'll butcher this because I don't remember specifically what it was, but I was watching something that was being reported through X, at that time Twitter, I think, and the Dutch farmers, I thought the Dutch farmers had basically had an edict put on them that said, your livestock is so bad for us in the environment that we're going to limit you to, it was ridiculous. Like, we're going to limit you to, like, 20 head of cattle per 500 acres or something. I mean, they were basically throttling them back, saying, you can't actually grow and produce any livestock anymore. We're going to take you down to 10% of what you were doing before. And that's the maximum number of head of livestock that you can own and produce whatever else. And these people are like, we can't live on 10% of our product. You can't live on 10% of this product. Grocery stores, have got to have something. This is not going to work. This is silly. And they're like, nope, we're doing it. And so then these guys, as you said, we're firing up their tractors. Okay, well, we'll be heard one way or the other. And so we'll go dump manure on the front steps. We'll pull into the local square and we'll shut her down. And you can just sit here and walk around us because you won't be able to drive anything through here. We're going to jam it up. And these farmers are so horrible. I'm like, no, you have ignored them and you have marginalized them so long, and you're picking on them now because they're easy to pick on, the low-hanging fruit. This is them pushing back. Now, too bad that they don't have the Second Amendment there, because it came to this. And the reason it came to something like this is because the government could behave in tyrannical ways. Now, Joy, if you don't think that we were on the NSA's list before, we are now. Because I just said it, and you just laughed. So we're in it. Okay, so if that whole "I would be Michael's neighbor" thing, we may end up neighbors. Not the place you want to end up. You never know.
But we're speaking so logically. That's the scary thing. How is it so dangerous for us to speak so logically and with commonsensical verbiage? Like, it's to the point where it's such a no-brainer to have these conversations and speak truthfully. I really do not care about the repercussions. And I'm like young and naive, so of course I feel that way, right? But like, these things matter. Food security, like, this is an utmost critical issue that we're talking about. Food security, growing food, raising our food, having that still as something that we have the ability to do, because I don't want the government to, I don't know about you, but I don't want the government to take over our food system. I don't want them to be like in charge of raising and growing our food. Our forefathers knew that. They had legislation, specifically verbiage in our Constitution regarding that, because they understood how important it is that the government does not get their hands in that, because they'll screw it up. So when it comes to this issue, I'm like, it's food security. It is a huge issue. And then are we just going to have no say? Are we just going to have no choice? The government's just going to take that over and say, well, because of these consequences and this and that, and you won't do it right, we're going to have to do it. Like, let's not let that happen. Let's take responsibility and some accountability. Let's get our water quality cleaned up. Let's make sure the things that we are doing on our farm and the farming practices that we currently have in place don't have these consequences, these negative impacts that affect all of us, every single one of us.
Do you remember the words food and security being used together 10 years ago when you were graduating high school?
No.
Right. So food security is something that a lot of people either may not understand, but they've heard it. I can tell you, I'm almost exactly twice your age. So I'm 52, and I'm thinking to myself, I don't remember hearing the words food and security used together in that way to elicit that outcome, except in like the last 4 or maybe 5 years, probably COVID or post-COVID.
Yeah.
So that ought to tell you quite a little bit. And it's a little scary if you think about it. Now, one of the tickers running across the bottom of the thing here, for those of you not watching, is I prefer dangerous freedom over peaceful slavery. And Thomas Jefferson is said to, or is quoted as having said that. I believe that. I think that's something he would probably say. And that's really where we're at in the conversation here. Now, you should care about what happens to you and the outcome, Joy, because I'm telling you that this government can and will smash you like a bug. And so, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't do what you're doing or I shouldn't do what I do, but I'm saying we had here for our Second Amendment Day, IFC has at the Capitol every year. You're going to have to participate with that. I think that you'd enjoy that if you haven't done that in the past. And we have a pack supper that same night. Next year, it's on 3/16, which is an easy date for me to remember. But but our guest speaker is Nick Freitas. I don't know if you've heard of him or you follow his stuff.
I follow him on social media.
Yeah, Nick's coming into town and he's going to do that. He's going to be our Second Amendment Day speaker and then speak at our pack supper. Anyway, this year was Sarah Weaver. I don't know if you've heard about the Weaver story or Randy Weaver, because they grew up here in Iowa and then moved to Idaho to kind of get away from things. Do you know anything about their story? You're going to want to look into that. And it was it became something called Ruby Ridge. It's not actually a real place. It was.
Yes. I do know of that story. Was that in the 90s?
Yep.
Yes. I do know enough-ish about that story, but no, I need to do a deeper dive on it.
You should. I knew Randy Weaver and I knew Randy Weaver post 90s or whatever else. But and he was no angel. He'd be the first guy to tell you that. But the family picked up. They moved to Idaho, and they just wanted to be left alone. They didn't like the way the culture was going, whatever else. Randy got to hanging out with the wrong kind of people. Ended up at, I think, some white supremacist rally, whatever, someplace he admittedly said he shouldn't have been. And somebody's like, "Hey, you're going to sell these shotguns?" Yeah, I got a couple of them. I'll peddle. Great. You mind cutting them off? Yeah, I don't care. Handed the guy a saw and said, "Cut them off here." Well, it happened to be a federal agent, so they entrapped him, but he didn't know that. And so the next thing you know, they come pick him up like, "Up, you made these illegal shotguns because they're 2 inches too short." So anyway, so they entrapped the guy, right? And then they wanted to inform, and he's like, "I'm not doing it." So, and then they gave him a court date, and his date that was on the stuff they sent him in the mail was different than when he was supposed to be there. He shows up at the date he was given. The court's like, "Not today. You're a day early." Well, I was here when I was supposed to be. That's the end of my commitment. I'm leaving. And so then the judge says, "Oh," and I'm paraphrasing and condensing all this, right? But they're like, "Hey, he's a problem. You better be armed when you go up there." So the marshals go up. They have camouflage gear on, and they are found by the boy. And I think in the neighbor boy and the dog. And then because they're in the boonies, all the kids have guns. So there's a shootout. A federal marshal gets killed. One of the boys gets killed, and it gets worse and worse and worse. And so then, you got snipers shooting the mom in the head while she's holding a baby in the doorway, and it gets worse and worse and worse, and so when you look at this and you're looking at the Department of Justice through that era that went on to give us places like Waco and whatever else, I'm not a conspiracy theorist at all to say that the government can and will squash you like a bug. I meant it when I said that, because they can and will.
Oh, yeah.
And if you don't think that has gone on before then, and it won't go on in the future, you're crazy, because it isn't government, it's fellow man. And we have a propensity for messing things up. It's because we're not importing any of that humility we talked about. So there are civil rights atrocities. There are the Second Amendment that gets trounced. I mean, I'm not saying it as often now because I've gotten out of the habit, but I should be saying it. All of these Second Amendment curtailments and all this gun control, this is primarily born of Jim Crow.
Yeah.
It primarily is. And people are like, "Oh, no, that's not true." I'm like, yeah, it is. There were law enforcement officials, other people that said, "We need to keep a handle on this particular sect." And it's usually the folks of color that are a problem, or the folks with little or no socioeconomic strength. So if we pass this law, we'll be able to keep control of these people. And that's exactly what they've done. So it's really a problem for me to see a lot of people in some of these communities advocate for gun control. I'm like, you don't even know your history.
No.
I've had guests on here. I had, I don't know if you've ever heard of him, Kevin Dixie from No Other Choice. I had him on like a month ago or a little bit more. And he's the first person to say, "Oh, yeah." And a very prominent black man, worked very hard, understands what Jim Crow is. I mean, better than probably anybody I've talked to. And he's like, "Oh, yeah, all of this is born of Jim Crow." So be careful when you're behaving as if you're self-righteous, because the truth of the matter is, a lot of these things come from dastardly human places that are born of arrogance and pride. It's a problem. And so whether it's the Second Amendment or water quality, we should be very careful who we put in positions of power or elected officials, because they can do a lot of damage. And some of them do it on purpose, some of them do it inadvertently, but damage nonetheless.
Yeah, we need to be very picky, and we need to make sure the people that we are putting in power have an extreme level of integrity. And that's a few and far between anymore. It seems like the people that we find that can do that. But I still have faith. I don't have faith in politics, and I don't have faith in a lot of things that seem so far and out of my control. But I have faith in people. I have faith in my neighbors. I have faith in friends and family members that I know at a very deep level. And I'm like, these are good people. These people have integrity. These people I can count on. These people are accountable, respectful, smart, intelligent beings. And that I have faith in. So I'm like, we just need to pay attention and do our own due diligence and make sure we're not allowing bad people, I almost said a naughty word, bad people to be in power over us.
How are you doing with that? We talked about that before.
I'm doing really well. I feel like I've almost said a few different things, and I caught myself right before. I don't know if you can tell I'm like biting like the inside of my mouth, but I'm behaving, I think. most
You're
part.
not doing too bad. You're not doing too bad. It's more of a struggle for me. I mean, I used to be a diesel mechanic. I grew up in those areas in Southwest Iowa. No, I was never a sailor, but I think that I could probably hang with them. The reality is, I have made over my time swearing an art form, and I'm really, really good at it. So now I've got children, and my friends have children, and all this other stuff. I'm like, dude, I cannot keep talking like this. So bad there, and there's no reason for me to speak like that. And then I run right back to it. It's a default position. When I smash my thumb, I'm not saying golly gee willikers, Paul. That's not what I'm
Yeah.
saying because I'm so
I
used
stub my finger pretty hard. Crap is not going to come out. It's just not.
I
Sorry
know.
about it.
We're both doing okay. And the reason that there are people who listen to this that are family and driving down the car with it going on the rail. So we don't want to say anything that's horrible, but I will tell you selfishly, it makes my life exponentially easier when I don't have all kinds of swear words to go back and edit out of this stuff, because it takes forever for me to pull those out. So when we can make it through an interview or a podcast or a show without that, it's great. I've had a couple guys on here. I had one guy on here. I still text him a lot. I love him. I think that he's fantastic. And I know we only had met one time, but I really care about him. His name's Daniel Corbett. He was SEAL Team 6, 5, and 17 or something like that. And we had a really long discussion. And I'm here to tell you, I had a notepad full of the hour, minute, and second that I had to go back and work on. And when we got to the bottom of the second, I'm like,
you're like, this is half the podcast.
Dude,
what do I do?
I'm going to take out 10 minutes of content just bleeping all this stuff out, so.
You should just like dub over the curse word with like someone unloading an AK. So like every time someone's about to say it, just like dub it out.
I could. I'm sure there are ways to do that. What I do is we're using StreamYard. For anybody out there that wants to start a podcast, Riverside, StreamYard, they're very good, easy ways to do it. I would highly encourage it. If you got something to say, use your voice. As always, I appreciate you doing that, Joy, and I'm glad we can do that too. But I can go through and hit a button, and it lays it all out, and it transcribes it into text, so I can go find the word. I can hit a little what do you call it? A cut right there, and a cut afterward, trim it out and shorten it up. But it takes a long time to sift through 3 hours of that and make sure you don't miss anything. Then I've got to go listen to it.
Right. You got to double check your work.
Yeah. We're staying pretty tame today, and I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
The day is still young.
We're going to make it. We're going to make it. I'm truly confident. What else was I going to ask you about? Okay. So we talked about a few of the things that you were passionate about as a kid, and it was interesting to hear you say that, because the things that we grow up as passionate about when we're little don't always end up being things that we're passionate about later on. But every now and then I run across a kid. Every now and then I'll run across an adult rather that are like, yeah, I knew I was going to be a doctor. I always wanted to be a doctor, or I knew I wanted to have livestock. We didn't have much on our farm, and I wanted a cattle herd, and now I have that. Every now and then I run across somebody that from the time that they were little, I mean like grade school, elementary school, little, this is what I want to be. And they have grown up into that. And I have a tremendous respect for that. I don't know if they just knew and their hard work and perseverance took them there or not, but life has taken me a lot of different directions than I never expected.
Yeah.
That's
and
good
you
too.
look at some of those people and it's like, man, how did they already know their destiny? Like, what's wrong with me? I didn't know I wanted to be XYZ when I was 5. Gosh, what's wrong with me?
I know. I think about that from time to time. I'm like, well, I thought I was a pretty smart guy, and then I found out I was not. That's okay, which is good too. I don't know if you're married or not, but if you're not, I'm sure that you probably will be someday. And it's good to have a little dumb in there, because this way, when I screw up, I'll be like, well, wife, I don't know why you're mad at me. She's like,
have mercy, right?
Well, yes. I mean, I need grace. I mean, obviously, but what I have done a lot of times in the past, she sees it coming now. I've used it too many times, and I'm like, listen, I don't know why you're upset with me. I'm predictable, And oh, by the way, you knew I was like this before you married me. So this fault
This
that
is
you
your
have,
poor discernment because you chose to marry me.
right? That's exactly what I'm saying. Technically, this is your fault because you knew this was the outcome and you said yes to it anyway. So I don't think you've got a claim against me. I think that this is a time for reflection on yourself.
That's
And
fair.
that worked a little bit, but it doesn't work much anymore.
No, she figured out. She kind of was like, "Oh wait, this is projecting.
Yeah.
I'm not doing this."
Yep. That's how it works. Anywho, let's see. What else was I going to ask you? We talked about gun stuff. We talked about water stuff. Oh, I did want to ask you. Well, it goes into a little bit of what we talked about before about some of these people knowing where they're going to be and where they want to end up. What's next for you? Are there things that you want to accomplish, or are you open to adventure? And if so, what's that look like? I mean, is there a fork in the road for you when it comes to things like this?
I am always open to adventure. I love that question because it's like, shouldn't we all be? Shouldn't we all be like open to whatever kind of comes across our path? Like my life has been opportunity after opportunity after opportunity. God closing a door and opening another one. God saying, walk through this door, and me saying, no. And then him saying, yeah, I need you to do this. And me going, no. And then finally somehow getting pushed through the door. And I'm like, this is where I'm at today. It's literally nothing that I had a vision of, like what I'm doing today and where I'm at 3, 4, 5+ years ago. You would have me cracking out because of where I'm at. Like, it just, this was not where I thought I'd be. I didn't think I'd go into working in agriculture, like growing up on a farm, everything. I had absolutely no interest in that space. It wasn't until I was in junior college that I felt very called, kind of just like out of the blue, that I wanted to go to school for agriculture. And I'm like, this is weird. Like, I was involved in ag and stuff in high school, but I was like, this is not what I wanted to do. I didn't want to go to college. I didn't want to go to a big school, and I ended up going to Iowa State University. Like, so much of my life has just been things that I did not plan on, that Joy's brain did not conceptualize, that God just said, trust me. And here we are. So absolutely open to adventure. I feel like it's hard for me to even say, like, where am I going to be in 10 years? Because I have no idea. I really don't. I know what my values are, and I know what I'm passionate about. And I don't think a lot of those things will change. I think I'm going to continue to be passionate about the things that I'm passionate about today, but I'm probably going to add some other things along the way. And maybe that will take my path somewhere differently. But gosh, I have no idea. Fork in the road. That's like every day. I wake up and something just like gets thrown at me, and I'm just like, oh, there's this now. Like, oh, this is a different route. Oh, I could do this. And I'm very much so willing to just jump on something and figure it out as I go. Like, I'm really not scared. I can't say I'm not scared to fail, because I think we're all scared to fail for like various reasons, like public perception. And then like, how will I think of myself? I'll think of myself as a failure if I don't succeed at this or whatever. But I'm not afraid to just be a newbie in something. I'm not afraid to not know what the heck I'm doing. I'm okay jumping into the space and being like, I have no idea why I'm here. I have no idea what to do. I'm lost. I feel overwhelmed, but I'll figure it out, because every single time I've done that in my life, and I've been in really uncomfortable situations where I felt totally out of my league, they've turned out to be some of the best things ever. So I've just kind of tried to tell myself, like, whenever I can, if I feel like I'm supposed to be somewhere and it feels like really uncomfortable for me to step into that room, I better step into that room. I better walk through that door, because like that is exactly where I'm called to go. And I've never had any regrets from that. Amazing, positive things have come from me just listening and walking through the door. And it's scary. And I've definitely learned a lot, and I've failed a lot, and I've tripped and fallen and gotten back up. But like, golly gee whiz, like it's the best way to live your life. It really is. Like, you don't know what you don't know, but you need to be putting yourself in situations where you're like, I'm the dumbest person in this room, because that is a exact room you're supposed to be in.
So, I mean, you and I have mentioned God a few times in the podcast as we visited. Are you one of these people? Well, that's a poor way to start off. But that's okay. We'll go. Are you one of these people that kind of senses when you're being given a pat on the butt? Get out into the game. It's like you're my high school football coach. Pat you on the rear end and sent you out there in the game. I don't know if they still do that now. They're probably somebody.
There's probably laws against it now.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Maybe there always were. but all I can tell you is, get out there and be somebody, and I mean, do you ever sense that I think that I sense this is what I'm supposed to do? Because sometimes I have very few times, I've offered some sort of prayer and say, man, if you could make this decision self-evident and
Yeah.
obvious for me, I would super appreciate it. And I don't get that very often. There's been a couple times I would tell you absolutely no doubt in my mind I was 100% sure that I should do this, and it was affirmed later in ways that were absolutely undeniable. I can say that unequivocally. Most of the time, I don't get that. Most of the time, I have to sit back and say, well, I'm really not sure about this, but oh, by the way, if I follow a couple of these handy dandy guidelines, like love him and love one another, that would support what I think I'm about to do. And oh, by the way, if I do that, even if it's wrong, or like you said, or if I fail, then I will have done well by him as best I can. And that's going to have to be enough for now. And that's usually where I find myself. I'm not one of these people that
You don't get like the gut feeling type thing where you're like, oh, my gut's telling me something.
Okay. I don't want to confuse instincts with divine intervention, because I'm not sure I could distinguish from time to time. Do I know when I walk into a place, let's say that I walk in, I love dive bars and stuff like that. They usually have good food and fun stuff. They also have some crazy stuff going on from time to time. In fact, almost always, if you're paying attention. So when I walk into some of these places, every now and then I'll be like, this is a mistake.
Yeah, you'll feel it.
I should leave very, very soon. And a lot of times in my life, I've been like, can't raise a welt on my fanny. I'm sticking it out. Well, I've learned now. I'm like, okay, well, have your fun quick and get out. Or, oh, by the way, find someplace else to have fun. And so there are things like that I would call instinctual. I've tried to help my kids with this as we kind of train up. I've mentioned this before on these kinds of podcasts or shows here, or when I've been on others. I started my kids very young. I'm like, okay, we pull up the gas station. We're going to go in here. You guys go with me. Dad's going to pump gas. Then we'll go in and pay together. You can grab a candy bar, whatever. I don't care. Get you some tea or whatever, and let's go.
Some filtered water.
Yeah. Get you some of that good Aquafina or whatever it is. I don't know. My son, he's a water snob. It's got to be one kind of water. He doesn't like it, and
smart man.
He doesn't know, but it's kind of funny that he's so discerning, anyway. Or thinks he's discerning. Anyway, okay, go in there, pick out 3 things. I don't care what 3 things you notice. I don't care if it's the price of gas, one of the people's name tag. I don't care what it is. And then we'll compare what we noticed. And 3 things, bring back 3 things. And then when we get in the car and we leave, we'll talk about it. And so that's how it started, because I didn't want to make my kids paranoid, because I think that's the fear that some parents have. Well, I'll make my kid paranoid doing that. I'm like, no, you won't. You'll make them observant.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that it's a big bad world and everything you see is trying to kill you. Although nature may offer those dictates, culture doesn't always do that. So be observant, and then we'll talk about it. And it was the most amazing stuff that they would come up with. And so I noticed pretty quick that both of the kids keyed in on instinctual things. Yes, they could do low-hanging fruit, like the price of this was that, or the cost of that was this. But I remember one of the very first times we did it, there was a yellow, really old Ford pickup with a blue tarp in the back, and both my kids recognized there was a yellow thing over there. The guy wasn't pumping any gas. He walked around it like 6 times, monkeying with the tarp, but he was pulled up to the gas station, the gas pump, instead of up in front to get a slice or whatever. He never did buy anything, and he never did leave. So he was there the entire time we were there. He was there before we got there. He was there when we left. Never pumped any gas, never went in the place. Just walked around, did other stuff. And then my daughter was actually able to give me the license plate number. Okay. And so I'm not saying they're great kids or they're bad kids or any better or any worse than anybody else. They're just kids. All right. But I noticed that somehow instinctually they paid attention to the things that they had not to. It was as if they were sheep trending towards being wolves. You know what I mean? So I'm like, I don't want you to do wolf stuff, but I want you to know how the wolf thinks. And I want you to be prepared for when the wolf shows up. You know what I mean? So I don't want you sheep. I don't want you the wolf, which means the only option left for you is to be a sheepdog. And that's really what I want to raise. You know what I mean?
Sheepdogs. I like
You
that.
better believe it.
Great Pyrenees are great. I love that breed.
I know, because they have all the attributes that I want. If my
they're
kid
gentle giants, they're protectors, they're
Yeah.
intelligent. They can sense danger, but they can also just like sense how they need to be gentle around a toddler. No, they're a great creature to like make that comparison to.
They are. So that's what I'm looking for. I don't know. When we do that stuff, Joy, I think that we're better off. I really believe that, but
I don't know if you can necessarily like, because what you're talking about, it sounds like to me is discernment too and discretion. And I don't know how much you can teach that or train that. I'm sure you can, but it's not really usually something you consciously think of trying to like train into someone. But I think that's a huge component of making good decisions in life, right? Because you can't navigate with your children every situation that they're going to be put into, whether they're children or young adults. You can merely prepare them as best you can so that when that something happens and you're not there to help them through it, they have the discernment to make good decisions, recognize danger, recognize what a good decision is, say, this is a weird situation, or this doesn't look right, and just have built-in instincts, I think is huge. I'm a huge gut person. I think some of that maybe is my personality, but I also think we downplay that sometimes because I think some of it is the Holy Spirit. I think sometimes when you feel that something where it's like, I need to go talk to that person. I need to pick that up. I need to walk over there. I shouldn't be here, whatever. Like sometimes that feeling, I think we play it off because we like have been trained to not trust our instincts and not trust ourselves in society. Then I'm like, sometimes I think that's how like God's speaking to us. And that's like the Holy Spirit saying, it's okay. It's okay to walk through that door. Or sometimes he's saying, this isn't right. Don't do this or do this. And I have regretted every single time I haven't listened to my gut. Every single time I've had a gut feeling that I was like, I just played it off. I just like, I think it's fine. It's whatever. I look back and I'm just like, that was God saying, walk out, get away from this. Don't do this.
Now you're heading towards, I think, where I am in terms of how I reflect on that. It's not that I believe, and maybe you can work on situational awareness. You can work on being observant, and you can improve those skills and do better by those things. But when it comes to instinct, for me, it's probably less about trying to train instinct and more about making sure that you do not deny it, because I believe that we have a lot of these instincts that are hardwired into us. I mean, it's natural for us with our eyes focused the way they are, both in front, being able to discern movement and color. I mean, you can go back to Genesis. You can say there's a reason that you and I are immediately doing this and we're darting our head around when we see movement that's camouflaged. It's because we recognize that the timber rattler is exceedingly hard to see, but we can see it. And when we see that movement, we're like, nope. We're immediately on guard, whatever that is. Now that I recognize in a split second, I see it's a snake. But oh, by the way, before that, I didn't know what it was, but I knew that it wasn't right. My instinct told me, pay attention to this. This is an immediate concern. Okay. Don't deny those instincts. We bring people, and this isn't a swipe at public schools or anything like that. But when you put your kids in other people's care, whatever that is, those are influences. And so if my kid goes to school, and this is not a political statement, and I'm trying to stay in my lane as best I can in the Second Amendment realm. But let's say, for example, my kid's going to school and there are 3 bathrooms, and there's something depicting a boy, there's something depicting a girl, there's something with a question mark on there. I want us to not deny the truth or the reality of things. So do I see 2 bathrooms there? Yeah. Do I see a 3rd one? Yes. But do I believe that those statements are all true? Well, no, I don't. The 3rd bathroom is a bathroom, and that's fine. However it is you need to use those, you need to go ahead and use them. I'm not too concerned about that if you don't tread on what my kid does or doesn't need. But is it intellectual promiscuity? Yes, I believe that it is, because the 3rd bathroom represents something that's inherently untrue. So do I want to deny those instincts where my kid knows that if I'm a girl and I go in the girls' bathroom, I have a reasonable expectation that only girls are in there? Yeah, I think that that's reasonable. And so
that's fair.
I don't want somebody else saying, no, that's unreasonable. This person identifies as a cat or whatever else it is, and is going to go ahead and use a litter box that we put in the corner of this bathroom. We're not doing that. You know what I mean? So don't deny
Yeah.
your instincts. Chiefly, please, I beg you, don't deny your instincts. I mean, now you don't have to do this in such a way that it takes somebody else's dignity or isn't loving towards them. I'm not suggesting that at all. Quite the opposite. But don't deny your instincts, and don't put your kids in places and in times and in routine scenarios where those instincts will be either dampened or removed, because that's a really, really, really bad idea.
And just to bring it exactly back to your theme, because I think everything's coming back to this thing of like, you're like, is this love? Is this truly love? I argue in those situations, no, because love is not enabling. Love is not enabling. And this argument where people say, well, don't you love them? Don't you accept them for this or that or whatever? Absolutely not. If I love someone, I am not going to deny the truth and reality of something to allow them to live in a non-existent reality and enable them into bad behavior or a false dichotomy, a false narrative. That's not
Yeah.
love. In what realm is that love? So when
It is
people
not.
make that argument, I always just kind of laugh, because I'm like, man, allowing someone to live in a really unhealthy state. It's kind of like if you have a sibling, say you have a brother who's an alcoholic, right? Maybe you don't have a problem with alcoholism, but he does. And you show up to his house with a 6-pack of beer. You didn't offer him any. You didn't say he had to drink them, but maybe he takes one and you are just enabling him. Then he drinks the whole 6-pack and you're saying, it's okay. It's all right. I brought him over. It's not a big deal. That's not love, right? That is enabling someone to participate in behaviors that sourly affect their life. That, I argue, is not love.
Yeah.
I have a boyfriend. He's a incredible human being. I want him to hold me accountable, and I don't want him to allow me to partake in things that are enabling me. Absolutely not. I want him to call me out when I'm being ridiculous. I want him to call me out when he's saying, this is wrong. One that I get a lot is, you're afraid of something and you're not living up to your true potential. You're not doing something because you're scared. He's like, but you know you're supposed to do it. That's him holding me accountable.
Yeah.
I feel very loved when he does that for me. I don't get mad because I'm like, oh, you're pushing me, and oh, it makes me uncomfortable. And oh, no, he's doing that because he loves me. And that is the truest form of love, in my opinion. True love, true friendship, true relationships, whatever it may be, they don't allow enabling, and not in that kind of bull crap of, oh, sure, it's fine. Do whatever you want. Yeah, you can say that and you can say that, even though it's completely not reality. It's in a state of a psychotic alternate reality.
Yeah.
That's not love.
No, as long as we do that, we talked about before, humility. I really believe that not only is it okay, but it's encouraged, because the truth of the matter is, I have refined this over a number of years, and maybe it'll be refined even further. I think that that's probably natural. But when it comes to things like sharing, discipleship, whatever else, I used to have a standard thing that I would throw out that I'd kind of formulated that I thought that was safe. And I've really refined it down to basically 2 things. I'm like, listen, if you ever want to ask me about those things, maybe I was placed in this spot at this time to help you with that. Maybe I was not. Maybe I'm not the guy. I don't have any idea. But I'll tell you what I will do, and I'll only make you 2 promises, because that's all I've got. Number 1, I will love you in the sense of filial love. And sometimes you got to walk through what the Greek words for love are, and have a foundational understanding of that. But yes, I will love you, and I can say that, and I can look you in the eyes, and I mean that because it's true. So that I'll do. And the other one is I won't knowingly lead you astray, because the fact of the matter is, I'm just a guy. I mean, I make lots of mistakes. I'm a sinner like everybody else. So I'm gonna mess this up, but I won't knowingly do that. So if those 2 promises, of those 2 commitments are enough, then you call me up, and I'll drop what I'm doing, and we'll spend some time. Whatever it is you need, I'll do as best I can with what I've got. But that's kind of all I've really got. I mean, to be honest with you, we all have favorite bits of scripture or passages that we're passionate about. But for me, I'm the GM 1-7 guy. That's kind of what I've done with my kids. I'm like, I want you to read Genesis 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I want you to read Matthew 5, 6, and 7. If you can do those 7 chapters and know them exceedingly well, I think that I could make an argument that you're equipped for just about anything in life. Now, granted, there's 66 books there with all very good stuff in them, and you need to know them all and understand them. I agree 100%. But since I'm a Sermon on the Mount Beatitudes junkie, and the first beatitude is the poor in spirit, which basically means humility. I try, and I'm not very good at it, Joy. I'm sure you can sense that, but I'm trying to be better with that. And I think that it logically is where we head ought to be. So when you're right, you're like, I don't want to enable somebody. The nature of love is really, are you going to be honest and truthful to them as you understand it? Not meaning that you know everything, but true to your understanding. Are you willing to be honest with somebody about that? Yeah, you should be.
Yeah,
I
no,
don't
I
see why
agree
you wouldn't.
wholeheartedly. And that's what leadership is, right? Like we need more men in society to have that outlook and believe those principles, and things would probably change overnight.
Geez.
I mean, really, like, I think not to like dive into that wormhole too much, but I think young men in my generation right now are really hurting and they're really lost and they're confused and they're lacking purpose and they're trying to find it in all the wrong things. And it's really sad because I'm like, no, 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 we need these young men to grow up and be strong, to stand up for what they believe in and have integral values and morals that align with essentially the Bible and society and just what's right. And I see what's happening in the manosphere right now. And it's very saddening. I don't know if you've seen some of these videos, maybe you have on social media, maybe we have the same algorithm, where they've done experiments, like social experiments in like a mall, a public setting, a shopping mall, where a woman runs up to random men and she has a message on her phone that says like, I'm in trouble, I need help, you know, this man's hurting me, whatever. And she's just running up to these random people, these passerbys in a public event setting. And all of these men are just like reading it. And then so a man will come behind her and grab her arm and walk her away. And these men that she's coming up to and showing this phone to are just kind of like confused and they're kind of looking and they see this man come and grab her and walk her away and then they just keep on walking. I've seen so many of these videos and sometimes you wonder like, oh, are some of them staged or whatever? But based off of some of the angles and like the security footage, I'm like, I don't think some of them are. Some of them could be. Yes, you can always make that argument. But the amount of men that this girl has walked up to and they did nothing to defend her has me mortified for the future. Where are our strong men? Like, where are these courageous men that want to stand up for truth, that want to stand up for dignity, and ultimately want to protect women, right? Because in that situation, all you had to do was just stop that guy and say, hey, hold on a second. Like, is everything okay here? You know, like that's all you had to do. You didn't have to intrude or do anything. You just had to stop the situation, make sure everything was good there. And if it's not, go find security, call the cops, whatever. Like if a woman is in trouble and she can't get men, it's the 6th, 7th, 8th man that she approaches before she gets help. That is not a society I want to raise young daughters in. That is concerning to me.
I know.
It makes you just ask the question, where are you men? Where are these courageous men? Like I'm appalled by some of it.
We've deconstructed them. Yes, I've seen some of those things. And I've asked myself, Michael, what would you do in that scenario? Because we've been told not to confront. We've been patterned not to kick up a fuss. And I will also say, I've made this comment many times to many people from being a person that carries everywhere. Every conflict that I get into is an armed conflict by definition, because I am armed at a minimum, and maybe they are too. You don't know.
Yeah.
So what does that do for people like me? That makes me very passive because I choose not to be involved in silly stuff. When two guys are hassling at the bar or whatever else, I'm like, check, or run me out, send me a bill, take my card, run my tab, I'm leaving. I don't want to be in part of this nonsense. So I wish you guys the best. I'm out of here. Now if they're yanking on chicks and doing stuff they had not to be doing, okay, that's something else. But what I'm saying is it's made me very passive in the fact that I don't want to be involved in stupid stuff. And so I find myself withdrawing from calamity every chance I get. But in situations like that, which have been recent, literally in the last few weeks, I'm like, I wonder what I would do if I saw somebody driving down the road with that thing plastered against the passenger window and this young, unassuming woman or this woman or whatever else saying, I need the help or whatever, or I'm flashing you some universal sign. Now that's going to be used to bait people into doing things, I have no doubt, but I suppose our default position still ought to be, um, let's figure out what's happening here. Let's get somebody involved that can discern this, not me. But I can't ignore this because, and it's, man, I don't know. I mean,
I think we're called though to protect the innocent.
of
And in
course,
that situation, you don't know who's innocent. But if we are called to do that, then there needs to be a intervention of some kind. It doesn't have to be dramatic or anything, but like stop, assess the situation, figure out what's going on.
I
Because
agree.
we need strong masculine men. We need them. And if I'm the only person on the planet saying that, that's a female, I don't care. We need strong masculine men. We don't need weak men. We don't need these beta males. We don't need these guys that are seeing that girl's message and continuing to walk down the street as if it's not their problem. That's the world that they're trying to create. They're trying to make weak men because weak men are easy to control. Don't be that guy. Don't
can't
be
believe
that guy.
I can't. Well, I can believe, but it's not shocking to me that this is where we're at in the conversation. I wrote I author a Christian blog. I'm not willing to tell anybody where the site is right now, but I'm not want to detract from our conversation. But the reality is, I wrote a blog the other day that was titled something along the lines of "Weak men ruin everything they touch." You know, and I've been called, I believe, for a number of years, and I've denied it. Okay, we're talking about this stuff. We're in it to offer a biblical headship series to the men's ministry that I do with another gentleman at church, right? And I've resisted it because I didn't want to do it, not only because of what it would implicate and make my life complex or more complex, but because I've got some things I'm not doing well. I'm not doing well for my bride. I'm not teaching my daughter what she should be seeing and people she seeks, and teaching my son what he should be for his future spouse, right? And so in order to embrace this idea of biblical headship, Michael was going to have to do some self-reflection and make some changes that I really wasn't interested in, you know? And so I kicked the can down the road for a long time. And I just got to the point where I'm like, well, I can't deny this any longer. This has got to be done. And I'm looking at all these problems in our church, with my friends, in society, in culture. And I'm like, we're going the wrong direction in a way that I cannot deny. And I think I should do this. So I've already done, it's a monthly meeting, right? So I've already done the first part, which is the biblical basis for male headship. The second part is just coming up is like the practical application. Then the third, because this is a men's ministry, right? We all get together for breakfast, whether we're little kids, old boys, all points in between. The third one, we're going to do an evening program. So the guys are going to cook together in the fellowship hall, and then we're going to offer spouses a supper. And then, you know, I'm encouraging people to come, whether they're married or not, because I want them to understand this stuff. And I am super concerned. That I'll say something that will wholesale turn the women against me in a moment, and it'll be torches and pitchforks, and I will. I know the gospel offends some people, and it should, because that means that they're having a reaction to it, and that's fine. But I don't want Michael to offend them, if that makes any sense. So
yeah, you don't aim to offend people.
Oh,
people that do that kind of suck, right? No one's aiming to offend anyone. You're sharing your thought. You're working through an explanation of something. You're trying to have a conversation. Is no desire of mine to offend people, right? That's not my goal when I wake up in the morning.
It's been mine most of my life. I'm exceedingly good at offending people. Boy, do I know how to do it and do it well. But I'm trying not to do that as often. I'm trying to I don't know, use whatever God gave me for something else. I don't know. But
I have a hot take about that, though, like the whole offensive culture, because it seems like nowadays it's like a big scare for people to offend someone. They're very like concerned and afraid that they might do it. I think that is built into a weak society. I think that is intentional, because if you are easily offended, guess what? You were also easily manipulated. So all these really offended people just walking around where I can share my opinion or my thought on something, and they go, oh, I'm offended. I'm like, man, you are so easy to manipulate. You are exactly what the system wants you to be. They are just playing with you like a marionette puppet, like easy money. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that in like a master manipulative way. It's just, I've recognized that. And I'm like, we have to be able to have conversations and share our opinion and recognize I don't have to agree with you, and that's okay. And I have the dignity and respect to respect you as a person and your opinion, even if I disagree. And Oh gosh, I miss this man, Charlie Kirk. He was a master of that. He was so good at saying we still have to have conversation and we still have to discuss these things, even if we disagree, because as soon as we stop talking, violence happens, right? And that is what we're seeing. We're seeing people hitting people on the street. We're seeing people not be courageous and strong in ways that we need them to be because they're afraid, because they don't offend someone. It's just a cultural problem is what it is. It's a cultural problem. And not to quote another Charlie, one of my other favorite Charlie Daniels, but in his song, is it Simple Man? I think, right? What happens when we put our Bibles away? Like, I love that song because it's like you look at society and that's what's happening. Like we are living by the law of man. And it's causing problems in society. And we're seeing it culturally. We're seeing it today. And people don't want to admit that it is a spiritual problem. Yeah. It is a moral issue. It is a character problem. And it comes back to this thing beating in our chest, right? It comes back to our heart and it comes back to what we value as important. And you can't have this conversation without God. Everyone wants to have this conversation without God because God offends people and religion offends people. And you got to stay away from that topic. Oh my gosh. You cannot address the cultural problem without addressing the moral and ethical issues that stem from the Bible, God's word. And we can't ignore that conversation. So I bring it up all the time. I feel like in podcasts, we'll be talking about something completely off the wall. And I'll say, well, God created this, and someone in the comment section of a video will just be like, you had me till you said God created. And I'm just like, if I'm the only person you hear that from, so be it. I don't God bless. You can have your opinion. That's totally cool. Whatever. I believe God did create the animals. I do believe God created the earth. I believe he created me. I believe we're made in his image. And I am living a much happier life than whoever you are, keyboard warrior, because I believe those things. So God bless. Have a great day. I respect your opinion though. But we cannot have this conversation without addressing that is my thing.
No, and I agree. I mean, there are dinner parties I go to, other things like that. And then there'll be people sometimes that actually will kind of offer an outline for how they have the expectations of evening. You're going to go. I mean, I was at a dinner party not too long ago where the hosts, and they're nice people. I love them a lot. They're fantastic. Kind of. But she stood up and said, yeah.
This made me spit my coffee.
It's okay. It's all right. But she stood up and said, here, there are a couple things that are off limits tonight. We want everybody to keep it light, keep it fresh. We aren't going to talk about politics or religion. I hope everybody.
I wouldn't make it at this dinner party.
And I looked over my wife, and she looked at me, and of course, my wife is a calming influence. She puts her hand over on my forearm, which basically means chill. You play your cards right, we might live through this. And I'm thinking to myself, I was just told in no uncertain terms that A, we can't have a free exchange of ideas here, and number two, if we do, people won't be able to keep their passions in check. In a way that they can offer anything across in terms of thought, contemplation, or exchange with any kind of palatability at all. And what we're really saying, and I know that this sounds super offensive, and probably because it's about the only way I can put it. If we're going to say that that's the baseline for what we're going to do here today, everybody in this room that adheres to this is as dumb as the person who said that.
Yeah.
And I'm not interested in dumb. So this is where I leave. You don't need to even bring my plate around. I don't need to grab any barbecue or scoop up any cream corn.
No scotcheroos for me.
Yeah. Well, the scotcheroos I'll take.
Take those to go.
So yeah, I've used my gas to get here. I'm owed a scotcheroo for the road, but and they are probably the best dessert ever made with stuff laying around the house that you ever found. But that aside, I was told that this was not the place for you, Michael, and maybe I should be thanking them. Now, what did I do? I stayed and I hung in there, and I dreaded most of it. But I was cordial, and off we went. But I will tell you, it's unlikely that I'll go there again.
Yeah.
Because,
like you said, there wasn't an open invitation for expressing ideas politely and respectfully as a grown but adult.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, this isn't a room I need to be in. This is the kids' table. If we can't have conversations politely and respectfully about things that actually matter. Oh my gosh, were we going to talk about movie stars and Hollywood? Things that don't actually matter at the end of the day? Yeah. Oh, God forbid we talk about meaningful things that impact our lives on a day-to-day basis. Like, I don't know. I don't understand that thought process either. Like, we have to have conversations. And I think disagreement's a beautiful thing. Usually necessity is, what is that phrase? Necessity is the mother of invention or whatever. Like, sometimes when you have those discussions and you recognize like, oh, we have different ideas about this, and you have an idea for a solution, and I have a different kind of idea, and maybe there's a little bit of a compromise. Oh my goodness, what a crazy word. What a crazy thought. It's like these people aren't in marriages. Like, I'm not married, but I'm in a relationship. I understand compromise, not amazingly because I'm pretty stubborn, but like, how do these adults get to be in their 40s, 50s, and 60s without understanding compromise and playing nice? I don't get that. I'm like, aren't you married? Like, are you in a successful marriage? Maybe not. Maybe you're just in a marriage that's still legal by legal standards, as you're bound still in the contract. But like, there's no way that you are functioning at a high quality capacity, thriving is really the word I'm looking for, in a marriage if you don't understand those basic concepts. There's no way. You can't convince me otherwise.
Here's a note that I keep these notes all over the place, and you know, as you change them a little bit over time, but this is the headline of the note that I made, and it wasn't long after this dinner party, which is, you know, a few weeks ago, whatever it was. The note title is called Weaponizing Morality, because here's what I experienced. Even though we were all put on point, these are the two things you're not going to discuss. I watched somebody that was politically and ideologically far different than myself do that anyway, and I didn't engage. I was able to keep it in check. But here's what I wrote down. Weaponizing morality. Beware the man who weaponizes his morality. He cannot outfight you or outwit you, so he attempts to outshame you. He calls your strength toxic. He calls your discipline oppressive. He calls your victory privilege. He frames his ability to act as a moral choice. I am harmless because I am good. No, you are harmless because you are weak. The rabbit is not virtuous because it doesn't eat the wolf. It's just a rabbit.
That's a great quote. Where'd you find that?
That's an amalgamation of something else I heard from somebody about. I added the rabbit stuff in because I heard, I don't know if I don't know for exactly sure where it came from. I'm assuming it's Nietzsche or something like that, because there's a lot of stuff like that he offers in aphorism or whatever else that you might find. And I know that a lot of people would hear me say Nietzsche and like, oh my gosh, Michael professes to be a Christian, he's got Nietzsche. I'm like, no, I happen to think that Nietzsche was a decent man. Yes, he kept Christians on their toes, and he was really, really rabid and vicious towards them. But I think it was because he was routinely pointing out their hypocrisies. So you can't get upset with a guy for calling you a sinner when you're sinning. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's accountability, right? We all do it. We're all going to sin. God, hope we have people in our life that will call us out for it because they love us.
Right. Now, I wouldn't advocate at all that that's what Nietzsche was doing. I don't think that he was picking on Christians because he loved them. I think he was picking on Christians as a point of pointing out their hypocrisy and being contentious. So do I believe that he did that from a position of, I'd sure like for these people to improve? I don't think so. I think he was just doing it because he was being discerning, but I don't think he was being discerning in terms of love. But regardless, that's where we find ourselves. I'm trying to think. I was on a radio program, KBIZ, out of Ottumwa with Ellis Kojo, I think is his name, the show host. Super nice guy. I've talked to him a few times. And this was just literally in the last few days. Anyway, he said something about what we're talking about, what was going on at IFC. I'm like, if you go on our website, there's a resources tab. And if you pull it and you open up, you can see all kinds of things that we offer. But one of them is a mental health resource. And he said, okay, well, let's talk about that. He's like, what do you think's going on there? I'm like, well, I don't think that we have the ability to make those changes. But I said, as a Second Amendment group, IFC tries very hard to stay in our lane because we're advocates for this thing. But, oh, by the way, there are ways that we could branch out and help with other areas of the community that lead or that are part of solving the problems that lead to the issues specifically that they create gun control cries. or you know what I'm saying? And he's like, yeah, I think so. Like, unpack that a little bit. So I did. I'm like, well, would I like to see the nuclear family more intact and dads in homes and all this other stuff? Yes, I would. Have we helped with things like, I think that the way we call it, like bullets and bacon. We bought hogs for a number of years, had them processed, and then gave the meat to local food pantries, churches, whatever else, to help satisfy these needs. So, are there cultural things that IFC has been involved in the past and will continue to be involved in? Yes, of course will. Do they have anything to do with the Second Amendment? Not directly at all, and maybe not even indirectly in some ways. But we know that when we're helping people have a healthier family so that they can resist the problems that come up or make their way through the inevitable problems that befall us all, is that better than the nuclear family breaking down and severing and all these other things? Yes, I believe that. And so there's a lot of ways that we can do that. And so it goes back to what you were talking about with men not doing men stuff, women not doing women stuff, understanding things that had ought to be done, where moral objective truth comes from, where it doesn't. We're denying all that stuff as often as we can because we've been told. I mean, I use this analogy a lot, but Nike's slogan is "Just do it," and we are.
Whatever we want, right?
Yeah.
With any justification that we deem
Yep.
moral. Because if there is no truth and there is no morality, then anything goes.
Yes, when Oprah says, "Tell your truth," when I heard that for the first time, I'm like,
yeah, I know.
Did.
Red
I
flag.
literally gagged. I'm not joking. A Scout's honor, I almost threw up in my mouth. I'm like, that is the most profoundly dumb thing I have ever heard. And these people are eating it up as if she's some sort of prophet.
Because it feels good. Like sin feels good.
Oh, yeah.
Let's all just like admit that. That's why it feels good to hear that. Like, speak your truth, whatever you want, whatever makes you happy. And it's like, well, of course that makes you feel good. Like, duh, it's built that way. If it makes me happy to cheat on my boyfriend, does that make it a good decision? Does that make it something that doesn't have consequences? My mama always said, you can pick the sin, but you can't pick the consequence. And that is like the 101 of what we're seeing in society right now. You know what I mean? Where it's like, yeah, do whatever makes you happy. Do whatever you want. You know, if you think it's fine, go ahead and do it. But you do not get to boohoo and whine and turn into a victim about the consequences that are a result of your poor decision making. Oh my gosh.
I know. Okay, so there are people out there right now that are thinking, this has been a fun discussion. I've enjoyed listening to Michael. I've enjoyed listening to Joy. He had a really great guest on today. And oh, by the way, she's probably the most miserable person I've ever heard of. She never has any fun. Wrong. That is not what happens. It isn't as if we aren't happy people when we try to do this, because the other reality here is I think that what we experience that people may not understand. And this isn't an issue of segregation so much as it is just the reality. There's a distinct difference between happiness and joy. And there are levels of happiness and how long they last and for how long that you get that feeling, right? Yeah. I would tell you joy is the kind of thing that only God gives you. Yeah. I think I'm not sure I could define for you distinctly what it is. And now I'm going to have to make a note. I'm going to have to research that so I can speak intelligently on it. But I believe that joy is probably only something that comes that's God breathed, so to speak, or God ordained, so to speak. So I experience joys, and sometimes it's in ways that I wouldn't expect. Like, for example, let's say that I'm sitting through a sermon, or I'm listening to a lecture, or I'm listening to a sermon online when I'm working, whatever else, something. And it illustrates this sin or something I have in my life. So this, whatever it may be, that's drawing me away from the big guy, right? Mm-hmm. And then I'm able to overcome that. I work on it. It's like, I don't have to do that today. I don't have to behave that way. I don't have to think that way. And I certainly don't have to speak that way. And then I am triumphant over this rut that I had been in, or this bad thing that I know is bad for me and bad for others. Okay. And sometimes that's where I get my joy from. I'm like, okay, you know what? I kicked that thing to the curb. With any luck and some perseverance and the big guy's help, I will continue to kick that to the curb, and I will keep it out of my life, and by extension, everybody else's. Well, I get joy from that. And I think that we need to understand you can't appreciate sweet without experiencing the bitter. That's going to be there in our lives. So the question is how you're going to handle that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so we're back to self-defense, or you mentioned that you were talking with some female real estate agents. There's a gaggle of female real estate agents that are my friends in this local area, and they are all very attractive women. And I've talked to them about this. I'm like, there are people out there that are going to ask you to show them homes, not
Mm-hmm.
because they're interested in buying a home from you.
They might have ill intentions.
Right. I need you to know that if you don't already know that. Oh, by the way, I think that you do know that because you're not stupid.
Yeah.
So I think that you know that, but you're denying it because you don't want to be a victim, and you would rather. It's our attempt at egalitarianism, right? Where we kind of boil all these things down to a familiar outcome or something that we like, rather than being honest about the nature of what they are and aren't. I'm like, please, I beg you, get in some self-defense classes. Add tools to your toolbox. If you're not comfortable with a firearm initially, maybe someday you will be, but I really want you to be well kept. Make sure people know where you're at. Don't go to these places, especially if they're remote at all, without somebody else. I mean, you've got to do these things. And I think that some of them do. Many of them don't, because they don't think anything bad's going to happen to them.
Yeah. It's very sad, but true.
All right. Did we just hit our block wall?
I don't know if we had a block wall.
I feel like, oh, okay. We've thought a lot. I've used a lot of brain power. Now it's nap time. I don't know what's going to happen next. Now, I really enjoy. I'm super, super pleased that you were willing to come on today. I think we've had a fun conversation. It's been valuable. I don't know. What preconceived ideas did you have before you came on here? I know. Okay. So just for everybody's edification, I don't know Joy. This is the only time that we've really talked other than just a few minutes of conversation to set this up. So I ran across her on social media. She's here now, and we've chased some rabbits and had a really good time. Thank you for that, by the way. What were your thoughts when you came on here? Did you have a preconceived notion of what this was or how it was going to go?
Nothing. When you had called me, I was like, I'll listen to a podcast episode of theirs before I come on, right? Because typically that's what I try to do. And the week got away from me. I have been up late. I've been doing a lot of stuff that I didn't originally plan on doing. I've been signing some papers and doing a lot of stuff. So it did not happen. So then I was like, when I texted you this morning and I was like, wait, did we have a podcast this morning? I was like, well, I didn't listen to an episode from IFC beforehand, but here we go. Like, I'm down. Like I said, I'm comfort. Just jump into it. Like, it'll be fine.
I'm with you. I think that we've done well. I really do. Again, my thanks. I would encourage you, just as I do everybody, and this is a good time to talk about it. If you like the content that you're hearing, if you appreciate this stuff, then do us a favor and like and subscribe to all these things. Hit those bells, do all the little whistles and wherever it is they're at. But I think that one of the things that helps us the most is the personal recommendation. When we have people that say, yeah, I became a member of IFC and I think that you should do this too, that helps. When you navigate to our website and you search for Iowa Firearms Coalition online and you go get it or navigate there, you'll see trusted partners, those people who are investing in you. Invest in them. They're giving you discount codes, whatever else. All these things are inherently good. There's tons of resources on there. We're doing a lot of work for people in terms of legislative matters, the occasional court skirmish, programs, all kinds of things and beyond. Collaborations with about everybody that you can think of. We're working very hard and we always need volunteers. So the reality is, if you guys are willing and able to do that, we would love to have your membership. We would love to have your alignment and your support. I don't know if, and I'm going to lay it on pretty thick now, I don't know if I'll see Joy's name come across as a member soon or not. It's hard to say. Maybe. Just maybe.
I'm interested in your Capitol Day and some of your speakers, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, you should be part of that. We put that information out and on social media and lots of other places, but you can put it on your calendar now. It's 3/16 next year, and what that consists of is it's an afternoon program. Come up to the Capitol building. There'll be a few speakers there in the rotunda. Nick Freitas and others will be speaking, and then that night, I think it's going to be out. I think it's we're going to rent the Shrine out in Altoona. It's easy for everybody to get to right off the interstate there. And that's a ticketed event. And so it'll be a little bit more intimate conversation. You know how it is. Live auctions, silent auctions, really good food, that kind of thing. And people can get together and let their hair down and talk a little bit. And we've had some of those in the past where we've heard some, I wouldn't say unbelievable because they are believable, but truly eye-raising stories. And some people have shared some stuff that they haven't shared other places. I remember when Chris Peranto, they call him Tonto, he was famous from Benghazi, right? He came and he told a portion of that story that wasn't in the book, wasn't in the movie, and he hadn't mentioned it to anybody. He's like, well, I just feel like I can tell you guys this stuff. And he opened up about some stuff, and we were all sitting back going, wow, we had no idea. It was very, very cool. And then a couple years ago, we had Jeff Strecker, who's an Iowa boy, born and bred, and he was in the Battle of Mogadishu. And Jeff Strecker became a chaplain, and now he pastors at a few churches. But just some of the things that he shared about his experiences that we thought we knew about were truly remarkable. And so I have people, I mean, Sarah Weaver this last year, I mean, she was talking about her faith journey. I mean, when you lose half your family to Uncle Sam, and then you try and battle back from these things, and you're in a little tiny cabin for almost 2 weeks with your mom who has been murdered laying there on the floor. Joy, that's heavy stuff. That is hard to move beyond. And some of the things that she shared and the way she shared it, I mean, it was really impactful. We've been very, very fortunate, very blessed, if you will, to have some fantastic speakers, and some of the things that they have shared have changed people's lives and helped given them meaning and purpose. So I would encourage anybody to come out to the Second Amendment Day. That's free, but certainly the Pack Supper, because it'll be, well, potentially a wild ride.
Amen.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Well, again, Joy, okay, so tell us where we all navigate to find you and your stuff so we can follow and be part of your movements and your conversations. Tell us all about where that is before we go.
Joy of all trades. Any platform I'm on, that is my handle on all of them, mainly on Instagram, Facebook, and a little bit of TikTok.
Fantastic. All right, Iowa girl, we're going to forget that whole Dutch thing. We've been over that a little bit.
Well, thank you.
I think she did come off as a little bit elitist with the scattergun thing in the beginning and talking about the lower ranges, but I don't even like using that word.
I think you've forgiven me for it. I see the grace in your eyes. I think it'll be all right.
You're right. I'm feeling better about it than when you first said. I'm like, wait a minute, did she just call me a pauper? Is that what happened there? But I think we're okay. We're living. Joy of all trades, thank you so much for being here this morning. God bless you, your boyfriend. Hope this thing works out the way that it's supposed to. And if there's anything that you need from IFC, let us know. You're welcome to come back anytime. And if you've got a podcast or something that you're doing in long form, by all means, let us know.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me on, Michael. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Bye.